for Thursday, March 12th. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and have our student reps lead us.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like, before we start, to ask for a moment of silence for two members of our district community that have passed away. Irene Spring passed away on February 28th of this year. Mrs. Spring was hired on October 1st, 1985, as the attendance officer at Sullyton High School and resigned June 30th of 2002. And also, Mrs. Eileen Tompkins passed away on March 3rd of this year. Mrs. Tompkins was hired as a substitute nurse for Sullyton Public Schools beginning in 1974. She was then hired as a permanent full-time nurse at JFK, effective September 28, 1984, and retired September 29, 1995. So if we could all take a moment of silence for those. Thank you. This evening, our celebration of excellence is being postponed because unfortunately one of the students that we were going to celebrate is ill. And so the other student was contacted, and so they could do the celebration together. We're going to postpone that until our April Board of Education meeting. So we'll move to the approval of minutes from our February 19th, 2026 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll start with public communications and start with our student board representatives.
Good evening, everybody. It's been a busy session at Sullyton High. So, as some of you may know, we had the show Mamma Mia. It was a very packed show. According to Mr. Roy, there was only standing room, so kudos to the drama club and their performance. Next up, we have junior prom coming up on the 28th. This is something juniors look forward to every year, and this is also the last year we will be using the La Bella Vista as the venue for junior prom. Moving forward, it'll be at the AquaTurf. Parent conferences are happening on the 19th. This is in trade-off, as we explained at the beginning of the year, that open house was no longer something that parents were going to, so now it will transition into a parent conferences, so attendance, I guess, will be monitored at 319. NGSS, the state science testing, has been occurring for the entire junior class for the past week. I'm very grateful I don't have to do it. DECA competition at AquaTurf was held a couple weeks ago, and there are many students that have made it to ICDC, which is the international competition for the business competition. I know we have one of the state reps for DECA in the town, so that's good to hear. Course registration is coming to an end as students pick their final classes, and as the year comes to an end, we are starting to pick Board of Education representatives for the 27 and 28 year, so we will keep you updated on that, and I'm sure you guys will look forward to meeting them as well. So, as many of you may know, robotics is a huge part of this town, and this weekend we have our opening competition. So this is the closest one to Connecticut. Roger will be headed there. So if anybody wants to carpool, he'll be there. So it's at Western New England this weekend. We are looking like a solid robot this year. I invite you guys to come check it out. Anybody that wants to check it out, please come to us after the meeting. We'll be more than happy. And in other news, there is a blood drive being hosted on April 21st. This is something that the school will be hosting for the second time this year, and we, again, hope you guys can donate blood. If not, spread the word to other staff members so that we could get a huge turnout. This is also something good for our students because we get a $500 scholarship if we reach a certain amount of people that donate blood. So, thank you.
So it's also been really busy around town this month. So at DePaulo Middle School, the 6th grade students attended a class presentation about Indian culture, focusing on the different styles of Indian dance. The 7th grade students participated in a workshop exploring a fusion of traditional West African dance moves as well as contemporary Afro beats. The JFK and Apollo Drama Club will present Frozen on March 26th, 27th, 28th, April 1st, and 2nd. Tickets are $5 for students and $9 for adults, with over 120 middle school students involved in cast and crew. And at JFK, we had the annual Sloper Punch. So they want to thank Mr. Raul, Mr. Ginty, Mr. Rotary, Miss Peretta, Miss Kinghorn, Mrs. Bove, Mrs. LeBlanc, and Mrs. Parman for raising over $1,200. And the faculty donated non-perishable items for Bread for Life. At Thalberg, we celebrated Read Across America with Career Day, welcoming over 30 parents and community members who shared their personal experiences about their own occupations. And at Kelly Elementary School, on March 6th, the PTO hosted their first ever Celebrations Around the World event, where families shared food, traditions, and cultural activities for students to explore. On March 23rd, the schools welcomed back Olympian Austin Florian, a famous alumni, and students created cards and a video to celebrate him. And on February 20th and 21st, the Kelly Drama Club performed Matilda Jr. at DePaulo Middle School with 42 student actors performing to a sold-out audience. So congratulations to all of them.
And for the sports report, the winter sports season is finally winding down. The gymnastics team finished 3rd place at state opens and 7th place at the New England Championship. The head coach, Cassidy Chamberlain, was named this year's Connecticut High School Coaches Association Gymnastics Coach of the Year. The boys swim team came 4th place at the state Class LL Championship and compete at state opens this weekend. Also at that meet, the boys' 100 breaststroke meter record was broken, and it was held since 1992. The cheer team came 5th place at the Class LL Cheer Championship this past weekend and will compete at the State Open Championship this weekend. The boys hockey team beat Conard, which is the reigning state championship, in the CCC Championship last week, and tonight they are in this quarterfinal in the state championship playing in Cromwell. The boys 4x200 meter relay earned all New England honors with their 6th place finish at the New England Championship in Boston, and members of the team are also going to be competing at nationals this weekend. And spring is right around the corner, and spring sports practice will be beginning this following week. Thank you, board members.
Nice. Thank you all very much. Does anybody have any questions for the student reps? All right. It's spring, but it was snowing earlier today, just as a reminder. All right. Communication from members of the Board of Education? Is there anybody? Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I have 2 quick things. About a month ago, last month, I was fortunate to attend a dyslexia simulation, which was suggested by a parent. It helped me learn a lot. I was a teacher for a long time, but not only about the educational component of dyslexia, but also about the frustration involved, and even bigger about the behaviors that come out of a person who struggles with that. So I want to thank the parent for that. Also finished reading the book that the school system's reading, the Being a Trauma-Informed Educator. It really shows how if you just throw trauma at an already traumatized student, you're just making it worse. And I'm so happy for the system we have, where we look at the restorative piece and look at how we can help the student instead of just kicking them out for a year. So glad for both those things.
Anybody else? Mr. Bashevsky?
I just had a brief thing that I wanted to discuss. As I've been very thoughtful about our budget process this year, and certainly all the situation with the elementary schools and everything else, reflecting on some of the anxious generation that Mr. Brown's been bringing up at some of the meetings. As I was driving around, I can't tell you how many cars I see where parents driving, guardians driving, and there's a child in the front seat with an iPad, or there's a child in the back seat with an iPad, or watching something on a show on some sort of device on a backrest. I can't explain enough that we're doing kids a disservice by doing that. And I challenge ourselves as a board. We are the Board of Education. We're helping to run the school system, but I think we're tasked with educating parents as well. And again, not talking down to, but helping to manage up, how to give them the power to say no, or encouraging a child to take in the world around them. My other point, I had a great opportunity to speak with a mom of one of the schools that we've been talking about a lot lately, and she brought up a great point of, well, what happens if a referendum turns up no? And I started the conversation, well, I think we all remember the referendum for our high school with the sports complex. Just because there's a no doesn't mean there still isn't a consequence. So, and what I mean by that, not in a negative way, but if we had gotten a yes on that referendum, we would have been able to complete all of the jobs in one fell swoop. And again, coming from someone who's been in construction and that type of thing, when you're able to have all the stuff there to complete a task, it's cheaper. And instead, we wind up having to piecemeal, which is what we're essentially doing with the parking lot, what we're doing with the tennis courts, that type of thing. And it's gonna wind up costing more than what was initially proposed on the referendum. So the mom brought up, well, if we vote no on the referendum for the school, then what happens? And I go, well, that's a great point. I don't know specifically, but speaking as a member of this board, one of two things happens. A building eventually becomes in disrepair, and now we have to find a place to put all those students from that building that's in disrepair. Number two, we have to start making financial investments into these buildings, and now we're putting money into a building that ultimately isn't worth it, right? So in essence, it winds up costing us more. The other thought that I brought up, and I think it's really important to let the public know and really drive this home, is when we do a brand new elementary school, we're able to check all of the boxes as far as what the state of Connecticut wants us to have in an elementary school. And what that allows for is it allows for us to essentially get back money from the state of Connecticut to do our project. And what I always stress is a town like Southington, we send so much money to the state of Connecticut that I don't think we often have opportunities to get that hard-earned tax dollars that our people send there back to our community. And this is a perfect opportunity where if we work together and we have this plan and we're very thoughtful about it and we're mature about it, I think that there's a phenomenal opportunity to get a lot of funds back. So again, it was one conversation with one individual, but I think as we're moving through, again, the referendum's going to be coming up in no time. So I think it's important to continue to have these conversations, and again, it wound up being a great conversation. So I just wanted to share that with you as my board members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Anybody else? Well, I have just one thing. So you see the banner in the back of the room. On Monday evening, there was a celebration of Austin Florian at the town council meeting. It was it was interesting to see. I was sitting over there, and I was sitting next to a guy that was in the Olympics. It was really cool. And he had his parents here, and the pride that his mom and dad were oozing for their son, and just listening to him talk about his experience there. And I think he said, I'm going to keep using the word, he used the word cool like about 5,000 times because he couldn't think of another one because it was so cool to be in the Olympics, wandering around. He said people were he was walking through the villages or walking through the town, and people were just saying, hey, can I take a picture with you? And he said, I don't understand why people are saying thank you to me in town. And somebody got up and said, it's because you represent us, and you represent us so well, and thank you for doing that. So I thought that was a really touching experience that night. The meeting was a long meeting. It went on till I think 11:33, is when it ended. And one of the things that happened at the meeting involved me a little bit, and I wanted to talk about it because I felt really bad, because one of the parents that had gotten up and spoken said that at our last district-wide facilities committee, I called our parents crazy. And if anyone that knows me knows that I don't call most people crazy, sometimes myself or my kids, but other than that, I would never call a parent crazy. But I went over and talked to them afterwards, and I said, listen, if I did that, it's on me. But they suggested I go back and watch the video, and I did, because I couldn't sleep that night. That's how badly that impacted me. So I just want to bring forward what I said, and I did use words. And it involved redistricting. I think when we were having that conversation, I said the only thing I could think of is it had to do with potential redistricting. And I brought up an example of when my son got redistricted from Strong to Thalberg. All of us parents from the neighborhood went crazy. The kids didn't care. They had a blast. Actually, they had a really good year that year. So it was about that. And it was about 18 minutes and 50 seconds in, we started talking about redistricting. And the exact words I said was, it's going to involve redistricting. And everybody gets all crazy about that. Maybe I should have used the word bad. I will say, over the years, we've done redistricting. Redistricting makes people crazy. And in the end, it just happens and it works. It's the parents that get crazy. It's the parents that are crazy. The kids do pretty good with it. So that's what I said. I own those words. I would never call parents crazy. And again, if you know me or the family I come from, you would know I would never call a parent crazy. Maybe I should have said mad, but I always use the word crazy when I start getting mad. So I just wanted to put that on the record because it really did bug me. And if I offended anybody with that, I'm sorry, was not meant to. Okay? All right. Having said that, communications from the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Oshana. Mr. Pepe has our first item tonight.
Thank you. So earlier this year, I was lucky enough to go to a workshop with one of our school psychologists, a social worker, and a special education teacher, hosted by Dr. Ross Green. And Mr. Brown, if you're looking for another book, he's got 4. And Dr. Green is a clinical psychologist, and he's been working with students, youth, for over 30 years. And we entered into the workshop with an open mind, not really sure what to expect. And at the end of the day, I looked at the other folks that I was with and said, what do you think? And everyone was pretty positive about what they had heard, what his theory and his approach and his process is in dealing with trauma-informed problem solving. So I had mentioned to my 3 colleagues, think about it. If you want to pursue additional training, just let me know. They all immediately said, yes, we do. I said, okay. So go back to your buildings and think about if there's anyone else that you think would also be interested. We call it the Green Team, and the Green Team is now up to 24 people. So out of the original 4, 21 more who've just heard about this and looked at, he has a website, Lives in the Balance. And he runs a nonprofit. All of the resources are free. And we have, out of the group right now, 15 of us are slated for the next step in training on May 7th and 8th. And based on that, we'll look, there's certification training after that and advanced training. But it really, the process is one in which we would be looking to utilize for any child struggling, but especially prior to going to PPT-1, and that is his whole push. You need to go through this process. It's collaborative problem solving based in science, and we're pretty excited about it, so I'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pepe. A couple other items for you this evening. We had a Veterans Committee meeting this past Monday, and we established the date for the military luncheon. It's going to be May 20th at noon here in the Public Assembly Room, as we've done. And another piece that came out of this, and you may have seen, I think that it's circulating around town, but they found the remains of a Southington resident in Poland who had been shot down in World War II. and we're finally able to connect with a cousin of this person who's in Massachusetts. She's older now, who chose that his remains be laid at Oak Hill Cemetery here in Southington. And so they're preparing for kind of a welcome home for this person who never got one. So stay tuned. As more information becomes available, I'll share that with you.
Thank you.
Can I just add to that? We've discussed that on the Wall of Honor Committee, and we've already agreed, once all that happens, she's going to go on the Wall of Honor. Too.
Perfect. So definitely a neat thing. I think this is, you always worry about what happens with people's DNA these days. I know there's a lot of people that are skeptical of some of those sites, but ultimately when you have situations like this, if you can trace it to an active DNA base, it does help. There is some good that can come of these things. I guess that's the way to put that. Recent legislation that was passed up in Hartford is that the kindergarten starting age of 5 this year, for this upcoming school year, boards will have to adopt a policy if they're willing to provide waivers for students to start before September 1st. If they're returning a burr baby, as we've referred to them in the past, if they're returning 5 after September 1st. So we do have a policy on the books right now that does provide for waivers. We had already done all the screening, and we had already notified all the parents before this bill was even passed. So essentially, the old saying, the horse is out of the barn in our case. I don't think it requires us to develop a new policy. I think it requires us, and it will by law, to grandfather the policy out come the first day of school this year, August 27th. Because for the school year 2027, there is no waiver process. It's a hard September 1st start date for all students. And so that will be something that we'll communicate out to families accordingly so that they're aware. We had the sloper plunge this last Saturday, and we were pretty lucky. It was kind of nice out, all things considering. I saw Mrs. Anastasia was there. I thought she was there to jump.
Nope,
yeah.
not
So-
this year.
But so it went well. Great turnout. It's an awesome community event. Everybody rallies around a cause. And so Lisa Rizzo jumped with me, and Joanna Cars from the People Services Office. So I had a couple jumpers with me, and it was a nice time.
Mr. Pepe?
I was there. I jumped. You didn't see me?
No, I didn't, Mr. Pepe.
I was right behind you.
He only gets up to his
I tried to tell him that if he did, he just could wear waders. He wouldn't even go up to his waist. He'd be fine. But, for me, it's up to my neck. And lastly, I know our students reps talked about Career Day. I was lucky to go over to Career Day. I just want to read. It's a good segue for our presentation tonight about kindness, actually. I got a packet of cards from the class, for kids. And I don't say this, please don't read anything into this more than how great kids are. Just that's all I want you to think about when I read to you, okay? Because some of it's a little embarrassing. Thank you, Mr. Redancy. Thank you for reading us a story. Thank you for teaching us about your career. Okay? Pretty innocuous. Very nice. Dear Mr. Redancy, thank you for being the best principal ever. You're so nice. You're a ray of sunshine. You're my BFF. You're a light of good. Wow, that kid is smooth. Mr. Redancy, thank you for coming to my classroom. I like snow days. Thought that was kind of fun. And this one I'm going to bring home to my wife, just so she I can remind her of our love. Thank you for reading us a nice book. You are very nice and sweet. You are handsome. So I figured I'd just share those with you tonight because sometimes we need a little levity in these meetings. And so the kids are out there and they're doing their best work. So
12th grade.
High school.
Well, high school? Just wanted to check.
that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the administration?
No.
No? We're good? All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is communications from the public on agenda items only. If you'd like to come up, please state your name and address for the record. Anybody? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to our committee reports, and we'll start with Ms. Camuso and the Finance Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. I'm going to provide a brief summary of several items that we covered in the Finance Committee meeting held on March 5th, 2026. In the first item, the committee reviewed the current preschool enrollment for both regular education and special education students at Hatton and Strong schools, along with a comparison of regional preschool tuition rates for the 2026-2027 school year. And based on this review, the administration is recommending a 10% increase in regular education preschool tuition rates in order to keep Southington's rates aligned with other preschool providers in Southington. The committee agreed to bring this recommendation forward to the full board as presented. So I'll just pause and make that motion now, if that's okay. Move to award the preschool regular education tuition rates for the 2026-2027 school year as presented by the Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion second by Mrs. Clark. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A motion passes.
Thank you. The committee next reviewed bid 2026-07 for lawn mowing, trimming, and seasonal ground debris cleanup services across multiple district sites. Several vendors submitted bids including Nelts of Connecticut, LLC, a vendor that's new to the district. And after reviewing pricing and checking references, the administration is recommending awarding services based on the lowest bids by location for a 3-year seasonal term. Nelts is recommended for lawn mowing at Hatton, Thalberg, and South End Elementary Schools, as well as debris cleanup at Oceana and South End. And just as a reminder, years 2 and 3 of the term will be subject to successful performance in the first year. And the remaining sites will be serviced by existing vendors, Father and Sons at JFK, and L&G Landscape at Oceana. The town's preferred ordinance was considered for all locations, impacting the award at Oceana. And the committee agreed to bring these bid awards forward as recommended. So I will make that motion now to award bid 2026-07 lawn mowing and trimming services, fall and spring ground debris cleanup and removal services as presented by the Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion second by Mrs. Clark. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, and then we next reviewed the food service financials through January 2026. And just to provide some information on that, the meal participation is down compared to last year, largely due to 4 fewer school days in January due to all of that lovely snow that we've gotten this winter. The program is currently showing a net loss of $96,886, which reflects higher food costs consistent with broader market trends, in addition to lower meal counts. And the negative meal debt continues to increase and totaled $12,686 at the end of January. However, the district continues regular outreach to families regarding balances and eligibility. The committee also reviewed the Board of Education financial update. Mrs. Mellett provided that for us. The district submitted the March 1 special education excess cost filing and is projected to receive approximately $3.2 million in reimbursement, though this amount remains subject to final state adjustments. The district is experiencing higher than anticipated substitute costs driven by more than 115 staff members on medical leave this year. And the district is currently operating under a spending freeze, with purchases limited to essential areas such as curriculum, safety, and facilities. We also then reviewed budget transfers made to move the 2025-26 new personnel budget into the actual accounts where the new staff are being paid, and a second budget transfer that adjusts the 2025-26 budget to better reflect the staff funded with the IDA grants. Just a final point on the financial update. The administration is requesting approval of up to $60,000 in fiscal 25 non-lapsing funds to cover unbudgeted snow removal costs related to safety concerns following the recent storms. Once again, these are impacting us. The committee agreed to bring this request again forward to the full board. And important to note that the district was negotiating pricing. I don't know, Mrs. Mellett, if you have any updates on that.
Yes, Mr. Romano's office has been reaching out to the snow vendors, and they are agreeable to bringing some of the pricing down. So it still will be in the $60,000 range, but they were able to reissue different invoices to us.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to make one more motion here. Actually, 2 more. Move to approve up to $60,000 of fiscal 25 non-lapsing funds for payment of unexpected snow removal as presented by the Finance Committee.
Second.
A motion second by Mrs. Clark. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
my last. Finally, the committee received an update on the Southington High School tennis courts, parking lot, and bleacher replacement projects. The Board of Finance has approved additional funding to expand the tennis court project to include a new parking lot with 143 spaces, addressing neighborhood parking and safety concerns along Pleasant Street. And given the town council approval the other night, the administration is requesting authorization to award the projects to Field Turf through the CREC Purchasing Consortium. The project costs include approximately $1.7 million for bleachers and $3.7 million for tennis courts and the parking lot. The committee supported bringing this award to the board as well. So given that, I move to award the SHS Tennis Court Parking Lot and Bleacher Project to Field Turf as presented by the Finance Committee. Project costs include $1,708,305 to remove and replace the high school home bleachers and press box, and $3,675,840 to remove and replace 7 tennis courts at the high school and install a parking lot with an additional 143 parking spaces.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second by Mrs. Clark. Any discussion? Mr. Whitehead?
Yeah, just wondering, thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we know what the bleachers are gonna look like, per se? You know, because when I go up, I'm scared of heights, and I feel like I'm gonna lose my life every time I go way up,
Well,
especially in the senior section
I'm with you,
there.
Cecil.
So
I'm with you.
Are they going to?
They are closed. They are closed. So we have renderings. They're closed steps, and there are rails on them. That's been one of the big complaints about the current bleacher system. We installed rails on the bottom few rows for people at least, but you're going up open bleachers with no rails is what you're probably envisioning. Yes, and so they are closed bleachers, and there are rails.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Bashevsky?
I just had one comment. I really hope that we continue to keep an open dialogue with certainly the police department. When we build this, we have to do better for these side streets. It's not fair to these neighbors. You know, again, like I've been down some of these streets during a school day, and it's really gotten out of control.
There's probably nobody happier than Mr. Arroyan because he has that dialogue with those neighbors
Yeah.
probably on a regular basis for that same purpose.
So again, like maybe we try and work with them, like as this happens, then we have to maybe put up signs of.
I think
no
there's
parking.
ongoing discussion
Excellent.
that this is meant to fix that problem, the
Yep.
25-year-old problem.
Right.
But that if it doesn't, it has to fix it. So there's been discussion with the police
100%.
department, with the council, so I think there's a lot of eyes on this one to
Excellent.
make sure it works. Yeah.
Well, it's,
Great point.
if I may, just one thing that, to piggyback on what you're saying, people have commented publicly about the fact that why can't the kids ride the bus? Why can't we force them? The bottom line is, these students are coming to school, they're parking legally, and they have cars. We have to do something. And
Yeah.
for, what is it, 23 years? Chief Daley has said this has been a problem. This is going to alleviate it.
Yep.
So,
Well, I mean, that's state
And
law.
that's- yeah.
Like, they're not allowed to have another person in the vehicle.
Exactly, they can't.
So again, like, we have to make do, so,
Yeah.
Will certainly help.
yeah.
when you had 12 friends in your car in high school,
Right.
Fit them all in that Wrangler, it was
We
amazing.
used to be able to do it.
can't do that anymore.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. All right, the superintendent's report, the personnel report.
Recommend the
Oh,
We'll move to approve the.
Recommend the Board of Education approve the personnel report as
Yes.
submitted by
Second.
the HR department.
Oh, she's on.
All right, we have a motion
Second.
and a second by Mr. Bashevsky. Motion by Ms. Camuso, second by Mr. Bashevsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Old business, we're getting into town government communications. Mr. Knapp.
Chair, can I just ask a question about the Finance Committee report real quick of the administration?
So we've moved by that?
Okay.
Okay, all right, good. The only thing I want to raise on the government communications is that we had I think, a rather good meeting last night with the Finance Committee, the Finance Board, in their Board of Education workshops. Several members were there from the Board of Education, the administration, and the entire Finance Committee. There was some, I think, very good dialogue, very good insightful questions, and I think we were able to bring out and have good discussion about questions. And so It's open up, it's going to continue on with the grid process. If there are questions, those questions will be added, the answers will be given, and that grid will also be presented to the town council. So all those questions will, the ones that we started, continue on. But I thought it was a very good meeting. I thought it was very open, very honest, very frank discussions, so.
Can I just ask a question? Because I was there last night, and one thing that I don't think was stressed enough, shall we say, the amazing job that our technology department does. And I don't know if they asked the question on the grid, but if, okay, so if we could just provide them, we have 14 staff, or 15, 14 or 15? 15, all right, 15 staff members. If we could send on the grid just how many devices and how many pieces of equipment that they have to oversee, because I don't think, I don't know, I got the feeling they didn't understand that there's only 15 people.
Volume.
Yeah, they don't, so if we could provide that, it was a thought that,
That's a really good thought, because the
Yeah.
other side of that thought is when you look at the number of buildings, the number of people, when we went one-to-one with the number of devices, and this is not meant as a negative statement towards anybody, but the number of devices for the Board of Education and the students to the number of devices and access points and infrastructure to the town, man, it's huge on the Board of Education side.
and I don't know if that actually came across,
Yeah.
that the total volume,
Yeah.
and that's what I think maybe if we could.
Good point.
Well, they did, but Tyler was really, really good in sharing, but
And
I-
really humble.
very.
He's very unassuming and matter of fact
Very
about it.
matter of
but
fact about
That's
that-
why I
what he
asked
does,
the
yeah.
town, how many devices do you have, just so I could
Let's let-
comparison of,
Yeah.
you know, close to
So-
10,000 between devices, access points, switches, servers,
Right.
Yeah.
you know.
So if you could somehow put that on the
Yep.
grid.
Yeah, makes sense.
Just because.
Okay, now we're going into some old business regarding policies. Mrs. Anastasio?
Move to approve the Board of Education approve policy 1312 as presented by the Policy and Personnel Committee.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move to approve that the Board of Education approve policy 3432 as presented by the Policy and Personnel Committee.
Second.
Motion second by Mr. Rashevsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move that the Board of Education approve policy 4100 as presented by the Policy and Personnel Committee as amended.
Second.
Okay, and that was seconded by Mr. Rashevsky. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll keep going.
Yep. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move that the Board of Education approve policy 4105 as presented by the Policy and Personnel Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And finally, move that the Board of Education approve policy 5113 as presented by the Policy and Personnel Committee.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. We'll now move into the curriculum discussion. Mr. Brown?
I move the Board of Education approve the SHS Agricultural Science Intro to Mechanics revised curriculum as presented by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Second?
Motion and second by Mrs. Clark. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Move that the Board of Education approve the SHS Agricultural Science Intro to Small Animals revised curriculum as presented by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Second?
All right, motion and a second by Mrs. Carmody. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Move the Board of Education approve the SHS Agricultural Science Intro to Large Animals revised curriculum as presented by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Second?
Motion and a second by Mrs. Clark. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Move that the Board of Education approve the MS Digital revised curriculum as presented by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Second?
Motion second by Mrs. Carmody. Any discussion?
I think it's very fitting that Mrs. Carmody seconded
The
the
digital.
digital.
Thank you, Joe. I love you too. Thank you very much.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Move the Board of Education approve the middle school health revised curriculum as presented by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Second?
Motion second by Mrs. Clark. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And move that the Board of Education approve the SHS Unified Physical Education, a new course proposal as presented by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Second.
Motion second by Mrs. Carmody. Any discussion?
No, yes, I do.
Mrs. Carmody,
May I make a comment?
you may.
That is so wonderful that this is going to be offered to these kids at the high school.
It's a great
I am
opportunity.
really, really thrilled about that.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's going to be very popular.
Yep.
It's going to be very popular. Great, great thing, great.
Yep.
Well,
Excellent.
you talked, yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And our last one, move the Board of Education approve the SHS Electricity and Electronics Applications for STEM revised curriculum as presented by the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Second.
All right, motion is second by Mrs. Clark. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you to all three. There's a lot of work being done in the committee
Yeah,
work.
that was a lot, yeah.
It's shows how much, this is like surface here. The votes are done here. All the work is done by the committees in the committee meetings, multiple committee meetings over and over. So thank you all for all the time you put into this. All right. Next, we're going to go into the 2025-2026 school calendar revision. Mr. Medancy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So before you this evening, I have a recommendation that I would like the board to consider. Given the amount of snow days, and I will not blame Mrs. Clark, even though she's the one when we adopted the graduation date and said, what happens if we have snow? At that point, we had none. So we went ahead and adopted the graduation date, and then it proceeded to snow weekly from there on out. So I appreciate all the 4:30 a.m. wake-ups that I've had the pleasure of enjoying. But with that said, that brings our last day of school currently to June 19th for the underclassmen, K through 11. That presents challenges it has in the past as well. One, I would say certainly is the heat in the elementary schools. They are not air conditioned, so very often I'm going around with a hygrometer looking at the feels like temperature, which is the real temperature plus the humidity, and we've sent kids home early on those days. So while the middle school and high school are air conditioned, they are not. So if we're able to go 180 days instead of 181, that is one less day. I think another trade-off to shortening the school year, it allows me to, we'll save funds by transporting one less day from 181 to 180. We can then repurpose the funds saved to provide the high school 4 delayed arrival days, because they're going to try to do, well, not try, they need to do a separate senior exam schedule. So they can't be, giving 500 exams while the other 1,500 kids are in school, because in many classes that they're combined. There's seniors, juniors, sophomores in the class. So what they were trying to do is have an exam schedule that would allow 2 exams per day over 4 days to cover all of the seniors. The K-11, the underclassmen would come in at a delayed arrival, and it would allow them to get the remainder of the school day in, so it would count towards their 180 days. So there's no extra cost on this proposal, and it does shorten the school year in terms of, the elementary schools, with the heat. We had done this once in the past, and I know the elementary teachers specifically had sent many emails thanking us for that consideration. So I bring that forward for you as a recommendation for consideration this evening.
So the recommendation is to make the last day of school for the non-seniors
Yes.
Thursday, June 18th.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move that the Board of Ed. Oh, go ahead. No, I was just reading.
Go ahead,
I
Liz.
move that the Board of Education approve the revised school calendar for the 2026 school year as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mrs. Clark. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bashevsky?
I just had one question for Mr. Medancy in regards to the testing schedule. Now, is it only the seniors can take those exams, or if it is a mixed class, would underclassmen have the option of being able to take? And the only reason I ask that is anytime that with testing and things like that, it's always better if people everybody takes it. This way, there's no discussion of the exams. Is that something that
I think the plan is just the seniors at this point, because there's another kind of variable in. A lot of seniors, they may be exempt from exams, but some have to come in and take it. But then it's also the underclassmen. The exams may be modified. They're going to be 90-minute exams because of the modified schedule, whereas the exams for underclassmen are technically longer. But they do need to move those exams up sooner, just because graduation is for some of those students on the line with the exams.
Yep.
Good question.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Camuso? Ms.
That's okay. Just one question about the 180 versus 181. I mean, that's according to state law, et cetera, 180 is okay. just
Yes.
For the public to understand.
Yes.
Right? Thank you.
And there better be no more snow, because I'll be coming back to you in April if there is, and we'll have to come up with a plan B. So
You
that's
said
the
it,
plan I would
didn't.
like to put out for now.
You said it, I
Yeah,
didn't say
well,
it.
well, I get to call snow days too, though, so I mean, I don't know if it's legal to call a delay and a dismissal the same day, but if I have to do it, we'll figure it out.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the seniors. You guys won the lottery.
They
Good
sure
good
did.
work.
You're not,
Yeah,
you're
you
not
get this.
smiling at
Yeah,
all.
shortest senior year ever.
They are so happy.
Cheshire Cat
But you
grins.
still
I
picked
love
up a
it.
day today, so it worked out.
All right, we have new business. We're looking at the Healthy Food Certification for 2026, 2027. Ms. Camuso?
Pursuant to CGS Section 10-215F, the Southington Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2027. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups.
Second?
We have a motion and a second by Mrs. Clark. Is there any discussion?
No.
All right.
I always have a point to be made on
I
this
was wondering.
particular issue. With this, is this for specifically getting back state dollars and federal, this is more the state of Connecticut, so this is, I assume, state dollars that we're getting from this?
Yes.
How much?
About $54,000.
Okay, so I say this every single time that we do this. Southington could be doing so much better. I understand $54,000 is a lot of money, but realistically, the food that we give our students is very unremarkable. I don't think it's nutritious. What they're qualifying as something that's nutrition-based and nutrition standards, again, being a registered nurse, it isn't. I think we could be doing a much better job of tapping into our local resources. I'm sure that we could make up that $54,000 if we actually had food that our kids want to purchase. So, you know, again, like this, I find it very disheartening that we bind ourselves for $54,000. So,
But Joe, you do know that we did try the Taco Bell up there at the high school.
right, I don't think Taco Bell's the best.
No,
choice.
no, it's not either. However, it did so well, we made so much money on it, and the kids bought it, but they just don't buy the food in the cafeteria.
Because it's junk, like it's
I know,
not
I
good
agree
quality.
with you.
I mean, we have three,
You kids
maybe
don't.
occasionally you guys
you buy
utilize our
lunch
hot
every
lunch
day?
program.
I personally don't.
No?
I'm not a big fan of it. I get it from time to time, but it's not very appetizing.
No, okay.
And so, but perhaps if there was like a good salad bar or something
Yeah,
that,
we talked
right?
about that, yep.
So, you know, again, like maybe we could, Mr. Chair, look into maybe some committee work that we could be doing with something like this.
It's a money object, that's why. It costs a lot of money.
$54,000 isn't a lot of money.
Oh, okay,
We could make up that.
okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, motion passes 8-1. And we have the food and beverage exemption for 2026, 2027.
Southington Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in Section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mrs. Clark. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 8-1. And just for clarity's sakes, the reason that that motion was so long and was read that way is in order to meet the requirements of the regulation. It had to be read verbatim. That's why it was a nice, long motion. Okay. Next, we're looking for an appointment to the UPSU Negotiating Committee for Physical Therapists and Occupational Therapists. Are there any volunteers? Okay. Mrs. Clark?
I'll do it, yes.
Anastasio? Mr. Brown? Anybody else? Mrs. Camuso? Okay, so right now we have Mrs. Clark, Mrs. Anastasio, Mr. Brown, and Ms. Camuso. Thank you for volunteering. More details to come on dates and all. Excellent. Okay, next on the agenda, we're going to be discussing a kindness campaign presentation. I will start by saying thank you for the cookies and the pen. Mr. Medancy.
Thank you, Mr. Oshana. So I was approached this past fall by Linda Riley, and she asked if I would entertain a short meeting with her and her friend Paula Lopatowski. And they had a proposal or something they wanted to share with me that they were hoping the school system would consider. So they sent me the proposal in advance, and as I looked at it, the timing I think was pretty good because you don't always get kindness in my job. People aren't always their best self. So you're feeling like, what can we do to spread some positivity around here? And they were radiating with positivity. So I met them at the Marion Schoolhouse, and they had a whole presentation similar to this evening ready for me. They were very prepared and thorough, and they left me with kind of saying, like, how could you possibly say no to this? First of all, two of the sweetest people that you'll meet, and second of all, we can all use a little positive in our lives right now. And so this was something I wanted them to share with our administrative team. So they did meet with all of our elementary school principals, also at the Marion Schoolhouse, which was pretty cool because I had never been there, and many of our elementary principals had not been there. So I didn't even know it was there, despite having been in district for 15 years. So we held one of our elementary principal meetings there at the old schoolhouse, and they had a presentation teed up, did a remarkable job. And in addition to trying to spread, the concept of kindness, and I'll say intentional kindness, but we'll elaborate on that in a moment, in the classroom, they're also trying to spread this in the community. And there's some efforts that I'll let them speak to this evening about how they're trying to spread this intentional kindness both in the district and in the community. So with that said, I'd like to invite Paula and Linda up, and the floor is yours.
First of all, I'd like to say it's nice to see so many familiar faces, and those of you that I haven't met yet, it's nice to
Could I
see
make
you
a
this
suggestion?
evening.
If you could, yeah, so we'd love to have the community be able to hear you.
That's better, right?
Thank you, thank you.
Then I'm going to say again, it's nice to see everybody familiar faces, and I'm glad to see the other faces, so I have a chance to meet you too. And we do have some slides on the screen, so I realize you have to be facing many ways, but that's okay, if you don't mind. So what you have first is growing intentional kindness every day, everywhere, in all schools, homes, and communities. So as you are all well aware, our current Connecticut school climate policy reads that Connecticut schools want students to, quote, thrive academically and socially, have a strong and meaningful voice, and are prepared for lifelong success. I'm hoping you are all feeling very positive energy from the school climate policy. As a Southington veteran teacher of 39 years, this seems like a green light to me to further develop the uplifting environment needed to nurture strong academics and positive social relationships. Like all of us, students perform at their best when their emotions are in check and social relationships are positive. Regardless of age, we all need to feel good about ourselves and feel supported to attain our personal best. I too was here at the town council meeting. Our hometown Olympian, Austin Florian, shared that throughout his competitions, he felt the support of his family and his hometown. At the conclusion of his mixed skeleton event at the Olympics, he acknowledged his personal best. Through our research, Paula and I are convinced that teaching intentional kindness can drive this kind of success. Our elementary principals have been asked to choose a place in their schoolyards where the message on the bench is most often seen. So this is the bench that we have been able to purchase and present to the elementary school principals. They're called Cape benches. And you can see in the back of it, it's highlighted, kind acts touch everyone. So we were really happy that we met with the principals in December because we had a chance to talk about the benches and also to offer some materials that they might use in their schools so that the students would have lessons before these benches are actually put into their school building. Our school climate can continue to improve. Our schools can run on kindness, and each student can be provided the opportunity to be better prepared for long success. I really believe that. 39 years of teaching.
It's wonderful.
This has got my name on it. I've seen it work. Intentional kindness can make a difference in our world, and we can start with our children here in Southington.
That is so great.
So we know all the schools are doing kind activities, and that's great. But there is a difference between being intentionally kind and being kind. And that's what that we're trying to get into the school systems and teach the children. So being intentionally kind means planning how you will be kind to someone and then performing the act of kindness. It is the repetitive behavior of planned kindness that leads to kindness being a natural part of who you are. This is just like practicing math and learning how to write sentences. All of those are learned behaviors. So intentional kindness is not the same thing as being kind. Being kind is when a situation arises, like opening the door for someone or picking up someone's pencil. So they're quite different. I've been involved in a kindness nonprofit for over 10 years, and during that time I learned that there is a science of kindness. This means research has shown that kindness can have a significant positive impact on both the giver and the receiver, as well as society as a whole. We have several experts that have researched the science of kindness that I'm going to show you. So Jeanette Mayer, who has a PhD, she's the director of the Science of Kindness at the University of Arizona, the Mayo Clinic. University of Sussex has done their kindness study results. Richard Weisbord, who's a Harvard psychologist, and Patty O'Grady, who's an expert in neuroscience, emotional learning, and positive psychology. Our conclusion, based upon this research, is that ongoing school-wide intentional kindness activities are needed to foster a positive school climate. This environment encourages the students' desire to succeed both academically and socially.
Intentional kindness, an if-then statement. If is going to give us some ideas about what we need to be doing, then will show what will really happen. So students need to see acts of kindness, hear words of kindness, and practice intentional kindness. If students are provided with these opportunities on campus, then we will have provided so many opportunities for them to feel good about themselves, which leads to students to meet our Connecticut school climate policy. We hope this toolkit will save our teachers from hours of researching ways to locate ideas for implementing intentional kindness. With great respect for all that is already on their plates, we shared ideas we hoped could be included in what they were already doing. For example, check-ins on kindness during morning meetings, kindness scavenger hunts for those rainy day recesses that can come back to back and the children get very restless. We were also able to suggest groups that could be utilized to help with projects that required additional organizational time, like posting every kind of kindness noted in the school, including notes from the students, their community, their families, recognizing kind acts that all the students did there in their schools, homes, and their community. The gratitude wall that would be growing kindness in the schools would be for every act of kindness. Every child that had their name up could celebrate the kindness that they were a part of. Every day, everywhere. We want everybody who performed an act of kindness to be recognized. Some of this group suggested to call upon for help were Rotary. Their Southington High School Interact Club looks for ways to help the community. These are high schoolers who can drive themselves after school to do this. Key Club also has drivers who look for community service projects, such as making sure the food goods or clothing contributions for drives that the schools have are kept neat in the school foyers, possibly even helping to deliver to community services or Bread or Life. The success of working together to accomplish a goal never gets old. Once an intentional kindness school goal is chosen and all hop on board and it becomes a group effort, you have success. We would like to recognize those who have helped us along the way to add to what we were able to share with the schools. Joanne Castingway is the art teacher at Strong School. This is her book, Welcome In, and it teaches children to be accepting of each other. Autumn Eliza Sheffy, who created a YouTube video, Count on Me, Southington, reminds children that we all need a friend and should recognize the need to offer friendship. Linda Lindsay is a 35-year veteran of Southington Public Schools, a school social worker. She's still supporting and offering ways that we can help children succeed. So with much appreciation to all of you as well for all the time and patience and dedication, understanding you bring to these Board of Education meetings. We really appreciate what you do as well. Thank you. We would be remiss if we did not thank our maintenance team for all they have done for the project and have yet to do. The benches needed to arrive 2 months earlier than expected. Storage needed to be provided. They created it. The benches had to be assembled, and it was not a one-person job. Once locations are determined for the benches, our maintenance team will install them. Southington Public Schools maintenance foreman Jim Lombardo has shared that these benches are of great quality, durable, and maintenance-free as they are well-coated with weather-resistant material. Think about it. Kindness grows here. This school runs on kindness. Southington schools run on kindness. Kindness is a choice. We really hope that our students plan to choose kindness. We truly believe that if we grow a graduate who believes in intentional kindness, this person will make a positive difference in our world. Your world, my world, our world. You will be receiving a handout entitled, board members, that's called Spreading Intentional Kindness Takeaways. I hope you'll find it useful. And at your seat when you came in, hopefully you found a gift of a pen. And on it says, Intentional Kindness, a Learned Behavior. And a gift to sweeten up the long meeting we have added to. Cookies were made by Sweet Mia. We really appreciate you having us here. In closing, please remember that just like you need to practice math, just like you need to run your business and practice those skills or keep yourself physically fit, you need to practice being intentionally kind every day, everywhere. Kindness is a muscle. Enjoy hearing the children share that message. By the way, our tech people helped us immensely so that we could show you this video, but I think you'll love it. Okay, pretty catchy, right? Can't you just see the kids enjoying it? So our dedication of the benches, Mr. Medancy, we want them coming out of their schools, and this is what they're going to sing when they join us in their dedication. So every school, elementary school, is going to get one of these benches, and when we know where they're going to go, then our maintenance people will put them there. And there are people in the community, groups and organizations that have bought these benches for the children, and they will have their plaques put on these benches so the children see that it's not just us talking here or filling up this room that support them. Our community supports them, and we want them to give back to the community, to learn to give back to the community. You know, take care of yourself and give back to others. And that's what we believe in, and we hope that you do too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mrs. Carmody?
Just one, no, that's all right, I just got two things. So I just want people to know, so there is a ripple effect when one person is intentionally kind, because 3 people are impacted.
The one doing the act of kindness,
The one receiving the act of kindness.
the one or ones watching the act of kindness,
And then the ripple effect begins. So again, we just want to, so we just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with you the importance of teaching our children to learn to be intentionally kind. And we'd also like to thank those watching online and the technical folks, like Linda said, that made sure we could play this video. So thank you.
kindness is a choice. Choose kindness, please.
I would like to, first of all, say they could not have picked 2 better people to talk about kindness. Both of you I've known for years. Paula I had in school. I guess it was junior high at the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Like 10
Mr.
years ago.
Medancy's mother-in-law was your teacher also, right? Her name was Miss Economopoulos, and
I think so, yeah.
she was there too. At St. Thomas, we had her.
Yep.
2 of the most wonderful people are standing before us talking about kindness. And I can't even thank you enough. It just kind of gets your heart. It's just wonderful. And I'm sure the community is going to be 100% behind you, because the 2 of you really do represent that. And so I thank you. And I also thank you for my cookie, because I'm very hungry, and I will be eating it before he takes it. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much.
Mr. Brown? Hold on 1 second.
This is a bit personal, but my wife passed away 3 years ago. And one of the things I learned from a lot of supportive people, students actually, and colleagues, was you can control your life by how you think. And if you look for kindness and gratitude, I'm going to say love and compassion,
Right.
and intentionally do that, which I believe we should teach our kids too, because we live in a world that's got a lot of struggle right now. We can make a huge difference, and you can feel better in life. So I want to thank you too. I met with you also at the schoolhouse, and was thrilled, because you are 2 wonderful people. So thank you for what you're doing, and let's hope the community embraces all of that.
Thank you.
I want you to also know that Paula is one of 12 children. So think about that for a minute. One of 12 children. And all of them were as lovely as Paula, the whole family. So it's so great seeing you.
Oh,
again.
thank
So
you.
great
I
seeing
think if we look at a program like this in Southington, we look at the community, we look at just the world in general, we need kindness in this world. Not just this community, but everywhere. I mean, and adults are what model kindness towards the children. And if we act kind, we show them what it's supposed to be like. If we're acting and arguing, it used to be in the good old days where you could have constructive discourse and not hate the person that you're talking
Right.
to. Now it seems like if you don't agree with me, then we have to hate each other. And that's just wrong. And I think being able to have something like this where our students and our children see that, no, it's not, that's not the way it's supposed to be. You know, I think when we look at the kids in our schools and the things that they're doing and the events that they do and the successes that they have, I feel relieved that that generation coming up behind us is going to fix a lot of the things that have gone wrong, things that we've done as adults.
But that's why I truly believe if we can start getting kids, like it has to start with the kids. The
Correct.
world has to
Yeah.
change with our kids
Right.
because they need to learn to be intentionally kind. And it really is different than just being kind. Being intentionally kind every day, like you wake up in the morning, how can I be kind to someone today? And you make a difference in someone's day, and then there's a ripple effect. Like if we can change this generation,
Right.
then we can start to change the world, because we're not gonna change all of us, right? I mean,
We try.
some of us, we try, but you really gotta start with the kids, and that's why this song, Kindness is a Muscle, like.
It's muscle memory,
kids
just like
learn-
sports.
Yeah.
If you continue to do
exactly.
it, you continue to act kind, it just is there, and we'll pass it
And the
on,
more
so.
activities they have through the school year, whether, you know, it's gathering clothing for children, if it's bringing in food, but if it's not just a once-a-year thing, if it's something that's planned in the schools, that it's going to happen. And even the gratitude board, I think that's always been a big thing for me. I love the fact that maybe 3 people perform kind acts and, you know, are recognized for it. But what happened to the rest of my class that I can tell you through the school year worked really hard to learn what intentional kindness was? You know, as teachers, we need to look for the child that we can help know they have that within them, because every child's name should be up on that gratitude wall. The gratitude wall would just be a posted sticker. So when you walk into here, that wall is filled. And what we suggested was it can be teachers, seeing an activity that went well and the kids participated in it and it brought out their kindness, and you just put their name on it. And if the families at home are involved in it, we don't know what happens at home. Well, what if my child really did something outstandingly kind, and I'm so happy, I can celebrate that by sending it to the school. That child can come in and put that sticker up on the wall. So every child is a part of the gratitude. How's that going to affect the whole environment of your school, right?
It's a big deal.
Positivity.
And thank you both so much for everything you're doing and for heading this up and spearheading. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Medancy, because he has helped us lead the way.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
So how could you say no to that?
I mean,
Right?
there you go. And again, thank you for the goodies.
Thank
I
you,
may
thank
just
you
take that
both.
one.
Much
All
appreciated.
right. Next on the agenda is as Mr. Medancy is getting it ready, the SHS parking lot solar port project proposal presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Adam Teff from Titan Energies here this evening, and he is the town's energy management consultant, and he's here to present a project to you this evening.
Hi, everybody. So thank you for having me tonight. I'm going to walk you through the process and the project. We can talk about the financial impacts and what the rollout would be, the practical implications of having a system like this on in your parking lot, et cetera. But again, thank you for having me, and it's always nice to be here and see folks face to face. So first and foremost, just some back history on how we got here. The town had reached out to me with interest in a solar canopy system for the police station. So in doing that evaluation, we thought it made sense to take a more holistic look at the parking lots in town to see which others could be applicable for parking canopy system. Single biggest parking lot in town by far is the high school. We're very familiar with the solar arrays that are on the roofs today. The financial performance of those actually predated my arrival by about a year, so those systems go back to 2014. But we do have a good amount of history on those systems, and we've been able to calculate the savings and verify that they're doing what they're supposed to do, et cetera. So generally, solar has been, a good financial move for the town and the Board of Ed over time. So looking to expand upon that, in particular, to do it in time before the federal government eliminates the investment tax credits related to solar. So that's a significant value stream from the project. For a project like this, it's about 40% of the value. So being able to act in an amount of time where the project could still capture that basically means the financial performance is about twice what it would be without it. So, with that in mind, we view our mandated Titan to be monitoring energy costs, managing those costs, reducing them wherever possible. The sustainability piece is obviously important. We know that's something that Connecticut schools and towns have embraced and value. But we do come at these projects with the mindset of how can we help our client lower their costs, do it in a sustainable way, and preferably do it in a way that doesn't involve any out-of-pocket expense. So that's the mindset that we brought to the table in evaluating this project. We put it out to bid in conjunction with the police station project. The results came back in. So from the 3 top bidders, Green Skies Clean Energy had the most advantageous bid for the project. Coincidentally, they are the developer that built the projects that you have already. We've worked with them a number of times over the years. They're very strong in the municipal part of the solar world. They're a Connecticut-based company. Their O&M is based in North Haven. So, again, I think the experience overall with Southington and Green Skies has been positive. So the fact that they had the most advantageous offer, I thought was a good thing. So we had the chance to go through and evaluate for feasibility, make sure that everything that was being proposed would ultimately come to bear if contracted for and built. So that included running a savings analysis based on your current addressable cost with Eversource relative to the price that you would pay for the energy from the solar array. The math on that is fairly simple. It's current addressable cost with Eversource minus the solar cost, whatever you'd pay per kilowatt hour, multiplied by however many kilowatt hours you get over the course of a year. So as you're going through this table, I don't know if you can see the mouse here, yeah. We can walk you through, the ins and outs of how this works, but even before I do that, I think for those of you that may not be familiar, the way that most of these deals are done is through what's called a power purchase agreement. That's what enables you to be able to enjoy the benefits of the project without having to invest in it or be responsible for ongoing maintenance. Effectively, it's like a relationship that you have with the utility already, where you buy the power that's created from the system. Key difference between this and what the utility does is that your cost per kilowatt hour from the system would be fixed and flat for a 20-year period. So in addition to the savings that you'd be getting from the project, you're introducing a significant amount of stability into your cost. We recognize being very immersed in the world of municipal energy through our relationship with CCM that budgetary certainty is critical, right? I mean, we want to keep your costs as low as we can, but as predictable as we can as well. So the power purchase agreement is a really good tool to help do that. So after evaluating the 3 top proposals that came in, running what we feel is a very conservative savings analysis, which is looking at your baseline cost today, comparing it to the solar cost that you would pay in the future, and then assuming over the 20-year period what we think is a very mild escalation factor of Eversource of 1.5%. So essentially assuming that costs are going to stay relatively flat for the near term and compare really well against that PPA rate. So as you're looking at this table, you'll see we call out the bidder, the system size that they've proposed, the annual kilowatt hour production from that system, your baseline addressable Eversource rate in cents dollars per kilowatt hour, the price that you would pay from the solar array for those same kilowatt hours, and the cost difference. So with Green Skies as the top option, the annual savings is about $200,000 per year, or extrapolated out over that 20-year period with that escalation factor I mentioned, just shy of $5 million. And one thing that I did want to mention, because I think it's obviously top of everybody's mind, and I'm actually glad that this was the year that we had a 1 in 10, 1 in 15 year snowstorm, right? Because it's kind of the thing that's been on everybody's mind lately. And it definitely is germane to this project. So one of the things that we did in advance of this meeting was walk the site with the current provider of plow services for the schools, just to get a sense of, well, A, have an opportunity to walk the owner of the company through exactly what was being proposed here, where the equipment would go, size of the equipment, height, width, et cetera. So he could assess from his perspective, if assuming they still have the contract to plow, what would that mean in terms of dollars and cents for added cost? Because on the one hand, you've got a spectacular lot for carports because the way it's set up, none of the steel columns that support the structure would go in asphalt. I know parking is obviously at a premium at high schools, so not having any equipment within the footprint of the actual parking spaces is awesome. It helps to, ensure that you're not going to lose parking spaces by doing something like this. On the other hand, the way that they have cleared the snow is to push it onto those grassy islands between the spots. So that's what I wanted to get to the bottom of and have that information for you folks to be able to say, if you did this, what would that mean for your plowing? And again, on a typical year, this hasn't necessarily been a typical year, but we want to know worst case scenario, what that might look like. And budgetarily, if you're going to plan for that, what does that mean? So the takeaway that I had from that meeting was approximately $40,000 a year on top of, again, this is to expect and plan for a year like this year. So, I wanted to make sure that that was understood by everybody, that we took that step and had an opportunity to speak with the person who's perhaps the most knowledgeable on what those costs are to plow the lot, even when the weather's at its worst. So if you take it that way, then you're looking at about $160,000 a year in savings, or you spend 40 to save 200. It's a 400% ROI every year. So still, I think even with that added plowing cost, a strong financial performance for the district. When I pause here, I know I've thrown a lot at everybody, and we can talk about the system itself, but from a dollars and cents point of view, I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, conversely, we also have mowing.
Sure.
What impact does it have on the mowing?
Sure. I mean, you'd still have to mow, right? My sense is some weed whacking around the poles and things like that. Maybe Pete, if you have an opinion on that, on the mowing side of things. I mean, my sense is that it's a negligible cost, maybe, a few $1,000s more per year, but I don't want to speak for.
The snow impact is much bigger than mowing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, one of the pictures, and I'm looking at the columns, and they're in the middle of the grassy area, and I'm thinking, I don't know how many you're gonna need of those, but I'm also thinking that it's gonna take more time, which is gonna be more of an expense, so we don't have an estimate as far as how much extra it would cost for mowing.
Well, I would say you've got a baseline cost already baked in for mowing, and then if you have to weed whack around the poles, I can't imagine that that's a significant cost enough to move the needle. I mean, the plowing, I think, is the thing that really is a material impact on your cost structure over time.
Height of these would limit the type of machinery that we could use, but like from experience.
No? Okay.
I mean, the minimum height clearance on the lowest end is 14 feet. So you can get a dump truck under here. I mean, I don't think it's going to impede on the type of mowing equipment that you'd have to use, or really significantly change the approach to.
I'm just thinking of the time, based on how many of those, that concrete that you have, that you have to go around. And I'm just thinking, time is money, so.
Sure. I mean, those are, I'm not in the landscape business, so I can't tell you exactly for sure, but, I mean, if you have a crew that's out there, maybe 10% more time to weed whack, tops, maybe, I don't know if.
No.
Mr. Brown?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Were other locations looked at besides the parking lot?
As in.
Put in the solar?
So the schools are effectively maxed out. And in terms of parking areas, I mean, the approach that I like to take is try to avoid open space wherever possible. Utilize infrastructure like parking lots if they're appropriate, just because, like a parking lot like this happens to be of a particular size where you can achieve the kind of scale where you start breaking the $200,000 a year barrier. there really isn't much left within the town itself that could be solarized, other than police station in this lot, short of utilizing open space and things like that, which I don't think there's really much appetite for. So, the schools, they all have solar where it's applicable, and you're getting solar on the roof at the high school as well, as you all know. So this was the best, most financially impactful option in our estimation.
It seems this is rushed, to be honest, and one of the arguments is that we're not going to get some money from the state or federal government if we don't do it now. That's what I seem to be hearing. Is that a factual statement, or is that someone's guess?
No, that's not a guess or anything less than factual. The investment tax credits for solar, which support projects like this up to the tune of 40%, July 5th, 2026, those go away. So you lose 40% investment tax credit on the project, your savings effectively get cut in half. So that's why I think anybody with interest in a project like this, while that massive federal government benefit is still there, that's really the time to do it.
Are you making the assumption they won't do it again?
I'm making the assumption, well, am I making the assumption they don't do it again? I don't like to wade too far deep into the politics of what's going on federally right now, but I can say with a high degree of confidence the industry is not expecting federal tax credits for solar in particular to come back anytime in the next 3 years. I mean, the administration has been, outright hostile, I think, to the renewable energy industry. I'm not expecting the federal government to reinstate a benefit that they've actively sought to take away.
Mr. Bashevsky?
So, a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, who owns the system?
So Green Skies would own it.
Okay. And what's the approximate cost of this system?
So a system like this is roughly $6.5 million.
25 million. Okay. So if we were to own it, we'd essentially get 40% back, right, with the credits?
Well, you would have to take steps to safe harbor the equipment necessary to lock in that investment tax credit by July.
Right. So essentially, that would mean we'd have to purchase the system outright in order to get the 40% back?
Well, yeah, whoever owns the system would get the investment tax credit that's associated with it.
Gotcha. So that brings it down to roughly, for the sake of argument, we'll say 3.75 million?
Sounds about right,
Right.
40%. Yep.
So now it'd be 3.75 million with a total return per year over year would be $372,000. So let's, again, we'll call it 400,000. So if we own the system, we'd essentially would then pay off the system within 10 years, allowing for, again, the useful life of a solar unit. It would give us essentially the 10 years on the back end where it'd be completely paid for. And then savings would be closer to, again, similar to this, where it'd be almost the $4 million essentially, right? Looking at your numbers on the slide with the years 1 through 20.
If you wanted to do a calculation of the savings, if the town and Board of Ed owned it, you would take those baseline savings and then back out whatever cost you were paying per kilowatt hour for the array. So that would be more in line. And off the top of my head,
Gotcha.
and I would just say right off the bat, as the town's energy consultant, I'm completely indifferent if the town decided we want to own it or have a third party. We basically come at these projects like, how can we put together solutions that don't require out-of-pocket expenses, but and then do it in an amount of time where you could still capture the investment tax credit. But let me just,
realistically, the concern that I always have is, we've sort of pigeonholed ourselves into a year-over-year contract of almost $1 million, right? that, again, like, we still don't necessarily get the true nature of, I hate using these dollars and cents because rates go up, rates go down. You know, if this administration decides to start reactivating nuclear power plants, we're gonna see a huge reduction in kilowatt hours and the expenses. So I guess what I have a hard time wrapping my mind around is, you know, again, like when you're essentially leasing the land for someone else to own it, that sort of pigeonholes us into, you know, again, situations like this. I don't get super concerned over the weed whacking and things like that. At the end of the day, you turn every single berm and you do landscape rocks. You know, again, then you just treat it periodically to make sure that we keep the weeds down. You know, I don't get so much hung up on those dollars and cents issues. It's more of, you know, again, like, everyone that I've talked to who owns a solar system is happy with their purchase. Everyone that rents a solar system winds up being disappointed. And, you know, again, like, I don't know, I just feel like we've been making investments in solar energy townwide, and I mean, you would know better than me, Mr. Medancy, or Mrs. Mellett, as far as like how much money that we're actually saving with our current program.
So last year, all of our arrays combined, we saved 63,000, I think was the number.
Yep, I ran those on the existing systems that you guys have.
So 63,000, but we're paying $875,000 per year?
No, that's a separate contract. The Noresco contract is not, there's no solar in that.
Okay.
That's all of the other, you know, retrofitting for LED lights, climate control, heating, cooling type stuff.
Gotcha.
But that is another energy deal similar to that. They said, if you pay this, you'll get this, you know,
Right.
in return. And it is hard to quantify.
Right.
Why don't you continue on with some of the cost information and the savings so that we started with some of the financial discussion? Why don't you keep going, because I think your next couple slides talk about more of the financials, and then we could pick up some more questions as we go.
Sure.
Adam, can I ask a question too?
Yeah, sure.
How do these rates that you're comparing with the Eversource compare to the electricity contracts that we locked into? Like, next year, our rate, I think, is gonna be more like 0.10078, and we're at a 0.986 right now. So I guess I'm just wondering, like, I feel like the savings may even be
Yeah,
higher.
it's about half, you're going up about half a penny per kilowatt hour for that next contract. I didn't include that in this just because I wanted to use your current baseline today. And by the time this system's built, that contract will have lapsed, and then you'll be in a new contract anyway. So didn't want to, you know, jump too far into the future and overstate something. I'd rather use what's on the bill today. So that's my methodology. So I put this table together just to show on a 20-year basis how this plays out. I think sometimes these things are easier to see when they're stretched and itemized throughout the 20-year period. You know, the math on it, again, is still fairly simple. Accounting for 0.5% degradation on the panels every year, your Eversource rate, that 1.5% escalation factor that I mentioned, and then your fixed rate for the power over a period of time, and how that ultimately unfolds over a 20-year basis. You know, the point I like to stress to people is, you know, we obviously do our best to make projections and to have them be as conservative as possible. There's different ways you could go about approaching this. You could assume, you know, 0% escalation factor or something almost conservative to a fault, just so you're planning. But I think the key takeaway here is, with something like a power purchase agreement, you have the ability to take $3 million of your, I think it's, you know, maybe six, whatever the balance is from solar that's already working, is probably about half of your kilowatt hour production, and then assign a fixed cost to that. So there's the budgetary certainty factor too, which I think, and on top of the annual savings is really kind of where these things start to step in over time and help save serious money. Anybody have any questions related to? Sure.
My question relates to the cost to remove the array at the end of its 20-year usable life. Is that something that's built into the contract and Green Skies pays for, or are we on the hook for that?
Sure. So at the end of the power purchase agreement, and this is the same for the existing equipment that you have, Green Skies would take the equipment back at their cost, restore the site to its pre-solar state, or, I mean, that's sort of the option that I want to make sure everybody understands is on the table, because you're not boxing yourself in at year 20. I think that's the most important piece. If at the end of the 20 years, you decide that, hey, this is working, we want to keep it going, you could agree to mutually agree to extend the agreement by an additional 5 years, or you could buy the system out at fair market value at the time. So the first option, I think, is the most important, because that's your off-ramp on the project if for some reason you no longer wish to continue. That said, I think there's plenty of useful life left in the equipment and the steel in particular, so I would imagine the most likely options would be an extension of the agreement, but that would be up for another board to decide, I suppose.
Right. And even upon the expiration of the agreement at 20 years, should the next board choose to, extend it for another 5 years, at the end of that 5 years, then again, the option exists
Correct.
to have them come remove the array and restore it to pre-array conditions?
Exactly,
At
yeah.
no cost to
It doesn't
us.
box you in, even if you
Okay.
do the extension. It's still at the very end. If you don't, even if you didn't want to do a second extension, right, that would be your off-ramp again to the project.
Okay. And just a comment for the public and the benefit of the board, with the increased expected snow removal costs, over a 20-year period, you're reducing the savings by almost $1 million with the increase in snow removal costs. So,
Mr. Whitehead? Just a quick question.
Sure.
So I think that we have units like these throughout the town. I think there's something in Rec Park. Are we able to glean what type of savings that we've seen already, if any, from, any of these units that we have in town? And also, second question, what's your recommendation? Do you recommend that this is something that we should do? Is it in our best interest?
Sure. So just the one question, the first one. The town of Southington does not have any carport systems on property that it owns. It's got rooftop solar, and that was the figure that we had talked about before when we, over the years, we go through and we do a savings calculation to see, what's actually happening there. So
Just one thing, we have rooftop, but we also have arrays over at South End.
On the ground,
not
right?
rooftop, yeah.
On the ground.
And at Hatton Elementary School. So there's 2 schools that have.
yeah,
guess
and
I'll call
I
it
fold
lower.
that all into the savings calculations number, so I don't distinguish necessarily. I just meant that I didn't know if you were referring to a parking canopy system in town, but we don't, or the town doesn't. So, but I do run, at the town and boards, once a year, check and see, okay, what's happened from a savings perspective. And the thing I would just note about those systems is that they're significantly smaller. In the PPA rate, the price you pay for the kilowatt hours, again, this is a deal going back 12 years, is significantly higher. So we're dealing with a pretty big difference in scale and also in cost. So that's why you see the 60,000+ across the portfolio that's here relative to 200 for a single system like this.
Okay.
And then as far as the recommendation goes, I mean, I've been doing municipal solar development now for about 12 years, been with Titan for 15. Our relationship with Connecticut municipalities runs deep. We're the renewable energy procurement advisor and energy solutions provider for CCM. So we work with about 30 to 40% of the towns directly in the state to do stuff just like this. So we put solar on rooftops, we put it on the ground, we build carports, and these are great tools that, again, we try to come to the table with our client, with solutions that don't require multi-million-dollar investments. Of course, the town could choose to own something like this, and, of course, whoever owns it gets the investment tax credit, and that ultimately creates greater savings. It's just at what cost, right? So I fully recommend all of my clients, especially now, given the fact that we've got a 3-month window before the federal government does a 180 on these programs relative to what was the intended legislation, 6 years ago, as probably the best cost reduction tool that I have in my tool belt as an energy consultant to offer anybody. So, we've done these at police stations, we've done these at high schools, we've done them at commercial properties. People actually like cover parking. They like being able to put their car away out of the elements. I don't really go there too much in these presentations because, whether somebody likes something or doesn't like something, I just feel like it's outside my scope. I'm just trying to help evaluate, the financial and practical implications of something like this. But that's, of course, an added benefit for people like being able to park under a covered spot.
Ms. Camuso?
I just wanted to address any safety kind of
Sure.
concerns because the majority of the people parking in this lot would be students. So when you talked about the snow removal and at the top, I did read something about snow guards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that in the pictures that are in this presentation, but at least I don't think I see them. So is there a possibility that snow could just slide off? Like, when you get these mass amounts of snow.
Sure.
And they keep piling up. Can you just address that?
Yeah, so the ones in the photos actually do not have snow guards. Those are added costs, but we've just started baking them in now because that's what everybody wants. So, and I think that they should have snow guards. In terms of safety, are you referring to the possibility of them hitting the equipment or something along those lines? Because in my mind, the safety piece is, where are the steel columns? And it's really more an issue for the car than the column itself. But if someone were to hit a column, they'd have to be up on that. They'd have to jump the curb first and be on that island, which I suppose could happen. I mean, if somebody, really gunned it from a spot, but these are thick steel columns and 24-inch concrete footings. So I think it's more a question about damage to the car than it might be to the equipment. And, the equipment's not going to, fall down if someone hits it with a, car going 5 or 10 miles an hour. So.
And the snow guards are guaranteed to not have any snow or ice fall on somebody.
So this was a question also that we did address in terms of like from the liability side, and anything liability-wise related to that is on Green Skies as the system owner. Can they guarantee, can I guarantee that absolutely nothing will ever come down off of that structure? No, I mean, that's not a reasonable thing that I could do. But there are, protections in place to try to make sure that that doesn't happen and then that nobody would be, harmed physically because of it.
Do you have, how many of these canopies are up? Have you, in your experience, I guess, and have there been any types of safety issues related?
I have never had anybody, any municipality, any private client ever tell me that they experienced a safety issue because snow or ice or whatever fell on somebody. It just never happened.
Well, aside from that, are there other safety issues that have come up in your experience?
I mean, these things are steel. They're steel beams driven into the ground. I mean, they don't move. They don't go anywhere. Even when they're built in the asphalt, so those concrete footings take up physical space within the parking space. I've never had anybody come and say, hey, people are running into these things or, they're causing problems for folks. That's just never been my experience.
Okay, we're going to take two more questions, then we're going to have you continue. Mrs. Carmody?
I just want to make one comment, just in relation to what you said. There are no curbs at the berms at the high school.
There are none, you're right.
No.
Yeah, so they wouldn't hit the curb first.
They're like mounds. They're,
Yeah, yeah.
they're mounds.
They're like berms.
Has anybody ever flown over one? I don't.
Yes, that's how they leave, right, Mr. Ryan? When they don't want to wait, they get called to the principal's office for that, actually.
Mrs. Carmody?
Yeah, my major concern with the company is all the years that I've been on the board, every time we have asked how much money we have saved, and every year that question is asked, and you can never give us a definitive answer. And to me, that is very bad.
I mean, I would respectfully disagree with you. I've done it on request every time I've been
I
asked.
respectfully disagree, but I have asked that question. Other board members have asked that question every single year. I think if I asked my business manager, I don't think you could give me a definitive answer, could you?
I can't tell you, but you'll remember that during our budget process this year, we had a slide in there that was talking about the $63,000 in savings, and that was produced by Adam on request from me.
Yeah, I mean, I can say categorically that, and even recently, we've been keeping track and provided that information. So I as to whether it made its way to you individually, I can't say, but we have done it.
And I think the other thing is, like the conversations that we've had, is that it's more about the cost avoidance than saving money, meaning that the rate that we pay to the solar company is less than we would be paying to Eversource. So when we are looking at our energy or electricity line, we're paying both Eversource and we're paying Green Skies. So coming up with that, how are we saving? The only way we can do that is by looking at the kilowatt hours and the difference between those costs. So, I think we've kind of just had that thought process over the years, and we realize that that's always a question, which is why this year we had that slide proactively as part of our workshops during the budgets.
And I think where people get tripped up with this and just taking a kind of broader look at, where do the lines get crossed with people in this stuff, especially if your energy budget is increasing year over year, yet you're saving money. It seems counterintuitive, right? But your budget would have actually increased by $63,000 more had you not had solar. So you can still see the tide kind of rising, even if the steps you're taking are helping to slow that rise. And I think a lot of times, just what I've seen anyway with different boards, is that as long as that top line is still rising, there's disbelief that you could be saving on another side of it. So just drawing that distinction, I think, is generally helpful.
Mr. Brown?
I was going to ask that question too,
Okay.
because I've been here when people have asked how much we saved, and I have never heard the number either, which disturbs me a lot, because I do believe in solar, but that was my question.
Okay, let's continue.
Sure. Let's see here. So this is a proposed layout of the system. We did avoid some areas just for setbacks to the street. We need to stay a certain number of feet away from that. So those areas in red are where we'd avoid for setbacks. So, the idea was to try to make full use of the lot and all the areas that are there. So any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Let's keep going.
Sure. So I just included some example photos. Each one of these is a little bit different, right? This one in particular was built 6 years ago. But again, I think visuals can sometimes be helpful, just as included in part of the packet that you guys have. and get a sense of, you know, what they look like in practice.
Is that at a school, that one?
Yes, that was Killingly Public Schools. And this one's Fairfield.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, you know, short of, you know, another example photo here, just again, as a point of reference. That's in East Hartford. So, again, this is a timeline that would enable us to achieve two things. One, to get into the incentive program from the state of Connecticut called NRES, the Non-Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program, that provides you know, subsidies for this project, and also allowing Green Skies to start making investments in the equipment to safe harbor the investment tax credit for the next 3 years. Ultimately, this would come to a head with the engineering and the procurement construction beginning May 1st, 28, and being complete by the start of the year 2028. So you're still a couple of years off. These projects do, you know, take a significant amount of time from concept to, you know, the actual construction. So certainly not something that would happen overnight, but, you know, within the next 2 years or so.
Okay.
That's really the extent of it. I mean, just a little bit about Titan, some creative ideas in case, you know, you weren't sure what to do with the money.
We know exactly what to do with the money.
I thought so. So, I mean, any questions anybody has, I'm happy to answer them. I mean, it's, if I could just kind of wrap this up, I mean, the idea, again, the mandate that, you know, we have as town and Board of Ed's energy consultant, try to find opportunities, particularly, you know, with the infrastructure that you have, to help reduce costs. I mean, there's, you know, a $200,000, or even if you net out the plowing cost, you know, that's, you net out the plowing cost, that's 10% of your energy budget knocked off for the next 10 years. And I don't know offhand how much budgetarily energy has increased year over year. But, you know, being a very large line item cost for the district, you know, our hope in bringing this project to the table was that, you know, being able to knock at least 10% off of that number and control it for the next 20 years without having to invest in the project in any way would be viewed as a benefit. So that's why we brought it to the boards for consideration at a time when, you know, solar is about to take a turn. I liken this basically to, you know, you have a conversation with folks about buying a house back in 2018 or 2019 versus today, right? And everyone's like, oh, if only I bought in 2019 or 2018, it was a different market. We'll be saying the same thing effectively about solar pretty soon. So it's a good time while the federal government's still willing to compensate folks for it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Carson, you had your hand up?
Yes, so, you know, to Joe's question and point earlier, you know, in coming here and making this presentation, and thank you, by the way.
Sure.
You know, and in making this recommendation for this array, you know, for the parking lot at the high school, you know, you shared with us basically the cost of the system itself, of the array, right? And we understand also this 40% tax credit that is going away very soon. With all that said, over the 20-year expected life cycle of this contract, of this agreement, what is Green Skies making off that contract over the course of 20 years?
Well, I don't know for sure because anybody's financial model for a project like this would be proprietary. But what I can tell you is that the returns generally on a carport are within, you know, 5 to 7 years or so. And the numbers on those returns generally are 10, 12%, give or take. I mean, they're infrastructure investments. So banks, they look at these, investors look at these as relatively low risk. The risk for them is payment, right? So, and town of Southington has obviously got a good credit rating and is a low default risk. And it's sort of like in the world of investments, you think about, highly speculative type investments where you could, 4 or 5x your money or whatever, but you might lose it all or worse. And then you have investments like bonds, or right, that just pay like a predictable, percentage every year, things like that. So, in the way that we keep people's margins, their profit taking, because obviously everyone's, they're not building their arrays for charity, right? So, the mechanism that we rely on to try to make sure that we are extracting the most value for the town is that running that RFP process and letting the market tell you, what are acceptable margins or what aren't. So. I haven't seen Green Sky's internal financial models, the short answer.
Okay. So, just quick math here, and again, just for the benefit of the public and the information of the board, because we do have to make a decision, right? And fairly quickly, even if you used, protracted model of, okay, it took 7 years to recover the investment costs of the equipment and construction of the array. We use 7 years instead of 5 years. That still leaves 13 years under contract, even at a conservative 10%, not 12% or 13%, which, financial institutions would probably look more towards. Even if we use, again, the 7 years and only 10%, that's approximately $675,000 a year times 13 years. You're looking at a net income of almost 8.8 million for Green Skies. So
On a
again,
$6 million investment, right? I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's less than that because they're getting all the tax rebates and everything else. So realistically, it's probably closer to the $3.75 million investment.
But for a time value of money, I mean, look, whether or not that's a good thing, bad thing, what that means for the town, I think, over a 20-year period, that is in line with what an energy project generally goes for. And that's not accounting for any of their operational costs along the way, insurance, maintenance, all that good stuff. So I try to not wade too deeply into that just because I don't know all of these companies' cost structures intimately, but I have seen enough of them to know that it's not, a 20, 30% return, 20-year IRR in their money. It's more like 10 to 12.
Right.
Yeah.
We're just having the conversation, and the more information,
Sure, totally.
The better. So,
Yeah.
just high level, big picture, even with the snow removal costs factored in there, we're looking at, probably a little less than 4 million, benefit to the district, over the course of that 20 years. And you're looking about at a conservative $8.8 million profit stream for Green Skies. So,
Mr. Bashevsky?
So just to bring everything, so I think certainly the pros of this project, and I think it's important for us to, again, whether we like the idea of solar, I'm not a fan of solar. I think it's ugly, quite frankly. That's part of my cons, but the pros of this: cheap energy, covered parking, which I think is kind of a really neat thing to offer. No impact on our current existing parking, which I think is by far the most important thing when we're making a X million dollar investment in adding lots. I disagree with the snow removal. If this is planned out appropriately, that this would actually cost us more money for snow removal, because if we're structuring this in the berms, I know that they're piling it up, but there's still room to pile up snow in that situation. I mean, if we get a 35-inch snowstorm, I mean, we're not going to school for a week anyway. So But, you know, the other thing too, to Ms. Camuso's point, you know, what's nice about systems like this, and when there's not heating elements that are going into it, like in a house, you get an ice dam, right? With these is, well, when it starts to melt, it's melting, and then when it stops melting, it's done, like it's not moving. So I think as long as you have those, you know, having used metal roofs before in construction, you know, you could really do a good job of planning for that. You know, as far as like the impact for like snow sliding off the roof and doing some damage. But I came into this meeting not liking the idea. I still don't like the idea that we don't own the system. That's probably one of my biggest cons, because at the end of the day, you know, while they make $8 million, you know, we're saving $4 million. So, you know, again, my tentative number math here is, you know, realistically to put up $3.75 million to have savings over the course of a 20-year period to the tune of, you know, almost $15 million. I think would behoove us to like own the system. But, you know, again, I don't know what the other cost structure for liability insurance and everything else, if that adds anything to what we do. So, again, like, I don't know, as a member, I don't like being rushed into decisions. I wish you guys had presented this 8 months ago, you know, to really have us do our due diligence and maybe have made this part of our project, because now it's like, okay, we've already expenditured a large chunk of project with the Board of Finance, and now we're, you know, like, oh, we want to do this too. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of pros, but I'm still really unsure about this.
Thank you. Mrs. Clark?
I'm going to take a different approach because, quite frankly, the numbers make me very nervous. I like Mrs. Carmody, over the years, I haven't seen the savings. I haven't, you know, cost avoidance is one thing, but to me, it's been fuzzy math. But I'm also thinking about the people that are in that parking lot, that are using the parking lot. And you may not agree, I know, Mr.
Don't agree
Bishop,
with you.
I know you don't agree with me, but that's okay.
But I love you because it's.
Because I'm gonna.
About kindness.
And because we have disagreed on many occasions. Here's my problem. You have got a parking lot that's filled with kids who are brand-new drivers, okay? Brand-new, and I see somebody in the back shaking their head. Brand-new drivers who, sad to say, sometimes do dopey things, like put the car in drive, they think, but they're actually in reverse. All I can see is kids smashing into things. I know kids have trouble backing into parking spaces, and sometimes their judgment is a little, or whatever. And I'm just seeing kids whacking into these poles, and I understand it's going to be, all right, which is stronger, that concrete or the car? And the concrete's going to win. But I just see them as being eyesores. Quite frankly, is it attractive? No, not at all. And perhaps I shouldn't be looking at that, but I'm looking at that. That school is our jewel. That is our crown jewel. Kids learn how to drive in that parking lot. How many kids have taken driver's ed or had their parents drive them up there? And while I understand they're going to be in the berms, I understand that, you're taking down trees that, where are you going to put them? I believe the original proposal was 24 trees? 24 that had to come down to put up concrete and pillars. And I'm sorry, I just can't wrap my arms around it. I can't say, yes, this is definitely a positive thing for our school, for the look of the school, and I'm nervous about your numbers. I'm not meaning to insult you, Adam, by any stretch of the imagination. I don't trust the numbers. And that's me personally.
Anybody else? Mr. Brown?
I've struggled with this one. I've been a fan of solar. I put it on my house 20 years ago. I've not paid a penny. I have an electric car I charge at night. I'm a huge proponent not only of the money you save, but the environmental impact. The questions I asked, though, I'm not sure about the answers. There wasn't an investigation of other locations. I think if we spent some time, there's some other places we could look at. I also am not convinced that because the federal government right now doesn't seem in favor of this, down the road, it's not going to be in favor eventually. My preference would be, I think someone mentioned it, that we took some time to explore it, the location, the finances, everything else. I guess that's not an option at this point, but this is a really difficult decision for me, I'll be honest with you. I am torn. I think like Mr. Bashevsky, I came in here with one thought and probably have another one now. I guess this is why we're paid the big bucks to be up here.
Anyone else? Ms. Camuso?
Yeah, I also just want to express that this timing is, to me, is not really appropriate, enough time to actually dig in and understand the, what it means for the district. But I also, we don't have solar in our house, but I am a proponent of solar. It's just, I don't like being rushed into a decision. I think this one is, we're saying March 14th that's Saturday?
Yeah, that's Saturday.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else? We're good? All right, just a couple of points. I think the town of Southington is not opposed to solar either. I think we've proven that because we have the arrays around town. We're gonna have solar on top of the high school that's going in right now. We have current arrays at Hatton, South End, Oceana, DePaulo, and Kennedy. And I, like many of the people up here, have asked year after year after year, what have we saved? And whether it's this versus, it's math, right? It would have been this, it is this, it's this minus this equals a number, right? And for the first time since 2014, we've actually gotten a number, $63,000 for Hatton, South End, Oceana, DePaulo, and Kennedy. I don't know where the other years are. It would have been nice to have seen, and quite frankly, if it were me and I was doing this program and I was saving the town money every year, I'd be trumpeting it from, on the top of the town hall, yelling, I saved you this much a month. And we haven't seen any of that. The pictures you provided, the arrays at the three different schools, those are nice. I don't think the density is anywhere near what we'd be looking for. I actually went up to West Farms because that's the only thing I could equate my brain around. And if you go in West Farms, the back door of West Farms, when you go up in the Apple stores there's arrays down there. And I think this is going to be more of what it's going to look like in our school. I don't know if you've been up there at all.
Yeah.
But the pictures of them don't look as pretty as those. It's the density of that, and when you look at every square inch of that parking lot being covered in these arrays, that's what we're gonna see when we come around the corner at the high school. Has anybody in the community seen this? Like, other than the town council meeting the other night, have the neighbors seen it? Has there been any feedback on what the community thinks about either the concept or the visibility or the aesthetics of it or the savings of it?
No, I mean, I haven't knocked on the doors of the neighbors.
Well, no, I'm not saying knock on the doors.
Yeah.
I'm saying have they been given an opportunity to see it?
I'm
Other
not sure.
than the presentation this past Monday.
I'm not sure what steps the town has taken to do anything like that.
Now, I know we talked about splitting the PD and the high school. There was some conversation about that at the town council meeting. Is that at all an option?
So the way that the bidders bid the projects, it was priced as a package, so you have to commit to both.
Okay. I just $63,000 for Hatton, South End, Oceana, DePaulo, and Kennedy for 2025, and not knowing what's been going on in previous years at all. And you mentioned present value of money. I mean, it's $4 million. I'm sorry, I don't have enough. $4 million something after 20 years, and it's $293,000 savings in the 20th year. When you do some present value mapping back to what those dollars are, it's not quite, the same dollar amount. $293,000 20 years from now, the value of that is not quite the same as $293,000 as it is as we're equating it in that.
Yeah, I think we try to account for that with, using a very modest, probably unrealistically modest view of Eversource rates. And from my position here, I mean, this is just an option for folks to take advantage of.
Right.
It's either way, you're not going to hurt my feelings. It's the project is positioned in kind of a unique point in time with the state incentives and the federal. So that's why we brought it to the attention. And we did go through town property to figure out where the best opportunities would be. That's where we landed police station and this lot. And, I apologize if folks haven't gotten the yearly information. That information is available, and we've been doing it for the last 5 years. So, if it didn't make its way to the board,
All right, so we
This is-
have in front of us a presentation that we all saw, and a lot of discussion that took place. So now we're in a position of deciding what the next steps would be. So the step would be either to make a motion to approve this and a second, and then a vote, motion to table, or no action at all. So what is the,
I will make a motion to,
Well, I mean, do we have an option to not take any action at all? Like, this is just a presentation, so. We have
We have
the
an option,
option
yep.
to not take any action at all, which I think,
You don't make a motion.
again,
so that's what you don't want a motion?
I don't think we need one.
We don't need
I think
a
this
if
is
we
just-
choose not to do anything, then we just say thank you, and we move on and make this a next step.
Yes, I'm telling you.
Yep. If we choose not to do anything right now, then what we would do is it would be a discussion item to see this, if we put this on our next agenda for a vote or not.
Okay, so we do have to take a vote at some point regardless.
What we would look at is, we've got the presentation, and we have to decide whether or not we at some point want to vote on that.
I'll be honest, I'm not opposed to something. I just don't, not this, right? Like,
So why
Right, so
couldn't
if
I make a
there-
motion? Because
For
I
what?
am opposed to it, so why couldn't I make a motion?
What motion are you gonna make?
I'd like to make a motion to not support the solar panels at the.
You don't need to do that.
You don't need to.
Mr. Carson?
Can't do that?
Well,
Yeah,
hold on. We could do that, and it would be a statement from the board, but it's not an action. It's not an action.
An action,
Right.
okay.
So, Mr. Carson?
My question is for Adam.
Sure.
This March 15th date to submit, for developers to submit to NRES, is that March 15th a hard deadline?
So that is, yeah. And the way that this year is working actually is a little bit different than prior years because normally there's 2 opportunities per year to submit your project into this funding program. The state of Connecticut has released all of it for the year, though, in an attempt to help mitigate the fact that the investment tax credits are going to sunset early. So it just allows solar developers enough time to secure the incentive for their project, get their contracts squared away with the site owners, so they can then start buying equipment in safe harbor, et cetera. If there's excess capacity that's not accounted for in this round, it would be made available in August. It's just an unknown. And then the program also is going to run in 2027, but unless a solar developer has taken steps to safe harbor their equipment prior to July, you're still going to lose that 40%. So the next best option is, getting an agreement in place with the developer prior to like the end of even the end of June is like cutting it really close. But that's at least sufficient for them to safe harbor equipment, and then just either cross their fingers and hope that there's incentive capacity left for August, or to apply in February of 27. So
So I'm
it
confused.
shuffles
I
the
thought I
risk a
heard
bit.
March was, there was a deadline of March, a couple days from now in March.
Correct. That's for the Eversource program's funding round. It closes on Monday.
Okay.
So that's just another crucial piece of this whole thing to kind of bring it together.
All right, so we have to make a decision on what we want to do as a board. So is there any, what's the pleasure of the board?
I would move forward with a motion to, to recommend that the board enter into the power purchase agreement for the solar array. That would be,
Purchase?
yeah, it's called the power purchase agreement, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that would be my recommendation and my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to proceed with this proposal.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none, would you please take a roll call?
Mrs.
No.
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Camuso?
No.
Mrs. Carmody?
No.
Mrs. Clark?
No.
Mr. Whitehead?
No.
Mr. O'Shea?
No. The motion fails 6-3. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda, we have the review and approval of education specifications for the Kelly and South End building projects. As we get prepared for that, Mr. Medancy, would you just give some
Sure,
input
let me
into
go
this?
down to the podium
Okay,
so I
yeah,
can
would
switch
you?
the presentations
Yeah.
and then I'll tee it up.
Okay, thank you. Because I think I've gotten some questions on what are education specifications, and I think the board knows what ed specs are, but it would be very good to put that information out to the public so people understand exactly what ed specs are.
Sure. Okay. So I have Jim Hoagland from SLAM here this evening to basically give you an overview of not so much the ed specifications, but what a conceptual layout could look like of the amount of rooms that are identified in the ed specifications based on the square footage that's recommended for the size of each room. So it's important to know that ed specs are not a design of the building. The building design happens after the referendum if approved. It's basically once the number of spaces is identified and the recommended square footage of each space, that's what's used to calculate the cost of the project. And so what I asked Mr. Hoagland to do is also for the board's pleasure, not so much because it relates exactly to the ed specs, but I know there's been questions as well about like where would, if all of those spaces are going to be approved as part of the ed specs, where does that fit on the lot? What does it look like? So the presentation tonight is kind of a bit of a hybrid that it partially just shows you it's a two-dimensional conceptual rendering. The building, once it's actually done, may look nothing like what you see tonight. And granted, two-dimensional. It could be, as you've seen, it could be a two-story building. It could be the shape of an H, the shape of a T, the shape of an L. I mean, they'll lay it out on based on the design and what they decide to do with engineering and especially, site use for traffic. So I wouldn't get hung up on things like traffic patterns and things like that tonight because it's all conceptual in nature and that wouldn't be finalized until the design phase of the project. So with that said, I will present to Jim.
Great, thank you very much, appreciate it. And I think it was aptly said, we're one small part of a team here. We were brought in to do the test fit. So our first step was really to review the ed spec, understand all the net spaces, every single room that was expected in a new school. And SLAM is comfortable with how that came out, and we think that all the appropriate spaces are accounted for to move forward into a 21st century school. The other thing that we were asked to do was a test fit. So once we understood that ed spec and all the net spaces, we were able to gross it up and understand the width of corridors and width of walls and mechanical spaces and different aspects to that. So the team looked at that, and then we started dropping footprints around the site. I think we looked at 3 or 4 different locations. So some of the ground rules that we were given when we started the test fit was looking at the existing Kelly building and how vehicular circulation worked in and out of there, understanding how buses arrived and left, the extent of parking, how much parking was dedicated to staff, how much play space was there.
Can I ask you one favor? Can you get a little closer to the microphone so
sure.
it picks up better for the video?
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So once we understood the parameters that currently existed at Kelly on the site, we started looking at the open space. So you can see what's labeled here as parcel 1, parcel 2, and parcel 3 are all town-owned sites, and we were given the parameter that we could use any one of those 3 if we needed the room. We looked at topography. We wanted to see just how much slope was there. We did an in-depth analysis as to where and if wetlands were on the site. There were no wetlands evident. We tried to understand the surrounding neighborhood, what those backyards that backed up against all three of the parcels were like, and how an intervention of a new building would impact those neighbors. So these are all factors that the design team talked about, looked at, and as we looked forward, we did some research on the town GIS map. We looked at soil classifications. We tried to understand all of the planning and zoning requirements as far as building height, front yard setback, side yard setback, and we set all of those parameters for us as the design team moved forward. So once we understood that, we kind of backed out and we looked at the overall site and the three parcels kind of grouped together. You can see in the southwest corner where the existing Kelly is and the parking access that comes in and out, and then the adjacent ball field is really a fairly small percentage of the overall site. So we were pretty comfortable with the test fit, and it did allow us to look at 3 or 4 different locations and configurations for a new building. Originally, we looked at 2 essential building areas. Building area 1 stayed entirely on parcel 1. Building area 2 pushed a little farther back and kind of towed the line between parcel 1 and parcel 2. Ultimately, the early test fits that we did determined that buildable area 1 was going to be more than enough space, and we wouldn't have to impact the woodlands and all the existing woods on parcel 2 and parcel 3. So this really kind of focused our effort. You can also see where the red dotted line is. We wanted to be able to create a very clear delineation between any kind of new construction and the existing operations of Kelly Elementary School. We wanted to be able to basically build a construction fence along that red dotted line and completely separate the two. And one of the advantageous things about this site is the access from the road. So by dividing along the red line, you could maintain all of the existing vehicular circulation to the existing school, and then you could potentially bring construction traffic in to the north. So we thought that was a very favorable condition. So stepping forward from there, we started dropping a footprint on the building, and basically building area 1 took up the north portion of the site. So a couple of other things we're looking at. As we located a building, we started with kind of a big box to see if there was enough space, and then we started thinking about separating vehicular circulation. One of the tenets of good educational design is to separate the buses from the parents, and in this case, we have a pre-K program, so we had to think about a third bus loop or drop-off loop for that pre-K, and that's a much different sequence than a bus arriving or a parent dropping off a 5th grader. So what you can see here is the entire test fit takes up parcel 1. We didn't have to impact any of the trees on parcel 2, parcel 3, and we're able to keep some of the buffers between the neighbors' backyards to the north as well as over to the east. So the basic layout here is you see the white footprint sits there, and you can see the main components labeled. We have the main entry is kind of at the center of the building, the white footprint. And then what we're anticipating is creating a new access loop that comes in off the main road and will bring parents and buses all along one road. The buses would travel all the way to the east and loop, and then be able to drop students in the morning as close to the front door as they could, and then they would leave and go back, do their next route. The parents would enter the same loop and then work counterclockwise through and be able to drop their students at the front door and then leave. And then in the afternoon, we're trying to provide as much stacking for the buses and parents and keep them separated. And then providing plenty of parking for visitors and staff and the appropriate handicap spaces in that main lot at the south side of the building. I think one of the important differences between the existing Kelly Elementary and this would be the extent of pre-K. So we have to provide a different type of drop-off with the 7 pre-K programs that are anticipated in the new program. So we're doing some dedicated parking spaces to the northwest corner. And then as I get into the floor plan, you'll understand how the pre-K has their own entry right into that wing, and it's completely separated from the rest of the school. And then spinning off of that back pre-K drop is the service area. So again, as we get into the floor plan, you'll see where the cafeteria and kitchen is. It's really pushed to the back of the building away from the front door. The other thing I want you to note is all the play areas labeled here. There's 3 very distinct play areas that accommodate different age groups. Obviously, the pre-K play would be right off the pre-K wing and those 7 classrooms. We've also identified a kindergarten play area and a bigger play area for the older kids in the back of the building. And then I guess the last piece I want to talk about in the site plan is once the new school is built, we would demolish the existing Kelly, and that creates a lot of area down in the southwest corner of the site. So we would be able to maintain the existing rectangular field that serves Kelly, and then once the existing building comes down, we think we could build a new ball field there. And potentially another rectangular field. I think you probably have to have some conversations as to what the most appropriate play field would be to build there. But we feel that there's enough space to be flexible, and I think it's worth a discussion. The other nice thing about this option is it maintains all of the existing parking in front of Kelly, which in the future would then accommodate parking for the play fields. And that, would be wonderful after hours and on the weekends, and you wouldn't necessarily have to park on the school property, that you would have dedicated parking for the play fields. So as we started looking at the floor plans, I know the footprint probably looked a little odd sitting on the site. It was a little bit irregular, but I think it fits nicely on the site because of the approach to the main entry. And then as we get into the floor plan, you begin to understand the logic behind it. So the center portion is going to accommodate all of the community use spaces. So you see the media center, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, all in that center core of the building. We located 2 music rooms and the stage immediately adjacent to the gym and cafeteria for performances. The other nice thing that does is it gets the music rooms, which are some of the loudest spaces in any school, away from the rest of the classrooms. We really kind of segregate that quite nicely. And then you can see the main admin area right by the front door. So we'd create a secure lockable entry, a lobby, so any visitor would come, have to check into that main office before they were allowed into the building. And then you would have 2 classroom wings. Off on the left-hand side is the pre-K. So there's 7 pre-K classrooms with self-contained toilets within the room. And then there is actually a pre-K admin, so they would have their own entry. So depending on the hours of pickup drop-off, they wouldn't come through the main entry. They would have their own pre-K entry, which would be monitored throughout the day. You'd be able to come in and go directly into that pre-K wing. So the younger kids would never have to cross paths with the older, 4th or 5th grader on the other end of the building. And then there's a whole array of support spaces that we talked about. There's a pre-K conference room, there's some testing spaces, some special ed spaces, some resource rooms that are all associated, and you can see those labeled right along that wing next to the admin area. And then lastly, off to the right-hand side, which is the east end of the building, is the balance of the rest of the classroom. So we have 5 kindergarten classrooms would be located on the first floor, and then they would have direct access out to the kindergarten play area that I showed you on the site plan. And then the rest of the first, second grade classrooms be on the first floor with associated student toilets, as well as the art room down that end of the building. So the students wouldn't have to travel too far to the art room. They would be traveling back to the core for their music, cafeteria, and the gym. And then moving up, we're proposing a 2-story wing to create some efficiency and reduce the size of the overall footprint and impact on the site. So we're showing 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classrooms on the 2nd floor, a 4-track school, and then some supporting special ed spaces, some resource spaces, and the necessary toilets, and stairs and elevator to get up to the 2nd floor. So overall, as a test fit, this is a pretty quick hit for us. We jumped in, tried to understand everything, but SLAM is really comfortable with where the ed spec sits, the overall spaces that have been identified, the overall area that's been identified, and ultimately how a building could potentially fit on this site. We think there's plenty of room, plenty of space, and that's really what we were charged to do this test fit. And as was mentioned, this will not be what the building looks like in the end. We haven't really designed it. There's a big difference between a test fit and an actual architectural design. So we didn't even get into a point where we're talking about the character of the building. We were really concerned with the general organization, and with our experience on elementary schools, we think this could work quite nicely. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions on these specifications?
Just one question, and this is probably way ahead of the time, but you mentioned that there was bathrooms in each of the pre-K classrooms. Is that the same for the kindergarten as well as first grade?
No, the ed spec did not call for toilets within the kindergarten. It was only the pre-K. So there are student toilets directly outside of the kindergarten. I think that could probably change if you wanted it to. I think
Personally, for me, I think it's a great idea to have the bathrooms in the kindergarten class, even in the first grade class. It makes a big difference.
I think the teachers usually prefer that as well. So, and the approach for the pre-K was we identified an overall square footage, and then we basically took 50 square feet out of that overall square footage to accommodate the toilet within the room. And I think it would be fairly easy to do that for the kindergarten if desired.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mrs. Carmody?
Would this require 2 administrators?
No, it's not scheduled to have 2 administrators right now. Right now, we have a special ed coordinator who oversees the pre-K program. Right now, it's just for 1 principal. Given the size of the school right now, we have 2 schools already. Well, the school that's most comparable in size to what this would be, has 1 principal.
Okay.
Mr. Carson?
As far as an elevator shaft goes, where would that be located?
Yeah, it's located in the middle of the 2-story wing. So you can see that wedge shape, the gray wedge shape space on the far left-hand side would be the elevator right at the end, that little X.
All right, so those are the ed specs for Kelly Elementary School.
For South End, we don't have a separate presentation for you because it's going on in the existing footprint of the building. And it's 5 classrooms at 11 square foot as indicated at the ed specs. There's no special design there. There is already an elevator shaft that was built at the time back when it was, pre-constructed for future use. The only question I've had with South End that I've tried to answer for people is, even though it is below grade, there will be windows in those classrooms. So that would be the one area of concern that people have had that I've addressed.
Mr. Bashevsky?
Just more of a statement, like, I know this isn't the exact format of what we're gonna wind up putting in, but this makes me happy. Like, this is, again, like, utilizing really lovely space that we have in our town, and then the fact that in this particular presentation, potentially being able to get a ball field, to be able to get a soccer field or what have you. Being a lacrosse guy, like, we're always struggling to find fields to put kids on. And looking at the population density of that area, again, like, this is what we're talking about. Like, neighborhood school, like, again, grab your baseball glove, it's a nice day, we're gonna go play some ball, right? So this is really cool comparatively to what we have there, which is kind of a field, you can kind of do stuff in it, but have a more formality, a little bit better parking, that type of stuff. This is great.
Okay.
And it's SLAM. I love that.
Yeah.
SLAM.
Yeah, well, SLAM believes the educational facilities are truly the most valuable community asset.
They're jewels, yeah.
They are.
Ms. Camuso?
I just want to state, I like the play areas, the separate play areas as well, but I think building in the play and the concept right there, so that it's visible and it's something that's needed, so I really do like that.
Thanks.
Clark?
Just something I just want to throw out there for people who aren't familiar with how this whole process works. The ed specs are one thing, and it's very cool looking at this. Some people are looking for renderings right now of what the building's going to look like. Years ago, when South End, and at the time it was called Plantsville, when they were going for the referendum, we did have renderings. And the only reason we had renderings, well, you and I weren't on the board yet, we had renderings because somebody donated them. The architect donated rendering, yeah. So we had beautiful. When the school, especially South End, when South End was built, it looked nothing like the renderings. That you wouldn't remember because, it was so exciting to see. I mean, it was all glass, it was crazy. But we have to pay for renderings. We have to pay for architectural services, and none of that's gonna happen until this passes. So I just wanted to get it out there because people are saying, well, we don't know what it looks like yet. You're not going to. This is all conceptual, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. And I just wanted to share that with people because I've heard that from more than one, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. One thing that we suggest people do is look at surrounding sound. There's a lot of towns that have recently built elementary schools. Go visit them, walk through them, and see what is possible. I mean, there's some beautiful buildings, some beautiful schools that have been recently built in the last 4 or 5 years. Go see them, and when the process does start, then you'll be able to say, I really love the brick on that building, or I love the metal panel on that building, and then that's when the architecture begins to get designed. And I think there's different styles of architecture that are appropriate for different towns and cities. So it's difficult to determine that right now, and to put a rendering out there, you can do it to get people excited, but to your point, it's not going to look like that when it actually gets built.
All right, thank you. So we're looking for a motion?
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the educational specs for the Urban T. Kelly Elementary School as presented.
Second.
We have a second motion by Mr. Bashevsky, second by Mrs. Clark. Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Baranowski-Enstad.
Yes.
Mr. Bajewski.
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Carson.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Camuso.
Yes.
Mrs. Carmody.
Yes.
Mrs. Clark.
I am delighted to say yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
Mr. O'Shannon.
Yes. Motion passes 9-0.
Late, isn't it?
And we're looking for a motion on the South End ed specs?
Recommend that the Board of Education approve the educational specs for enhancements to South End Elementary School dated February 21st, 2026, as presented by the administration.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Would you let us do motions on
No, because that's my school, South End.
Move it along.
Would you call the roll, please?
We're doing it. We're doing it.
Yes.
Mr.
Come on.
Bajewski.
Yes.
Mr. Carson.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Camuso.
Yes.
Mrs. Carmody.
Yes.
Mrs. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
And Mr. O'Shannon.
Yes, the motion passes 9-0. Thank you very much. Okay, last on our agenda this evening, excuse me, is public communications for non-agenda items. Is there anybody that would like to speak this evening? It's a 3-minute time frame at this point at the end of the meeting.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And today, after teaching a full day, I rushed home to get my daughter ready for dance picture day. I
Can
spent
we
the
just
evening.
get your name and address?
Oh,
for
Schma
the
Green,
record?
67 Memorial Drive.
Thank you very much.
I'll sign in after, because I came late. I helped her get into 7 different costumes before handing her off to my husband so that I could come here tonight and speak to you. This is the 3rd night in a month that I have not been able to put my daughter to bed. To me, that's just unacceptable. Right now, my most important job should be being a parent and being present for my daughter. At the Board of Education meeting on December 11th, Mr. Bachevsky said, people at home are the most important educators in a child's life, good, bad, or indifferent. And I really do agree with that statement. Parents matter. Unfortunately, the only way to communicate with members of the Board of Education seems to be by coming here in person, because according to Mr. Medancy recently while trying to contact the Board of Education. It appears there's a policy or practice that board members do not respond to emails from the public. And I really feel like that needs to change. There needs to be a way for the community to communicate with the people they elected to represent them on this board. I know how to email Mr. Medancy and Mr. Pepe. I do, because I do that often. But when I email members of the Board of Education, I'm not looking for a response from the superintendent. I'm looking for a response from the people who were elected to serve on this board. Once elected, it's not acceptable to simply stop communicating with the public. If responding directly to emails is not something you can do or will do, perhaps those questions and comments from the community should be read aloud and addressed during the meetings. Before last month, I participated the way many parents do, which most of my friends are doing, watched meetings when I could and read the minutes afterwards, because again, I have a child at home who deserves my attention. I should not have to be here at every meeting just to feel like my voice might be heard. The community elected each of you because they believe you will make the decisions in the best interest of our children. But when parents have questions, concerns, or ideas, there should be a way to have that dialogue directly with you, not solely through the superintendent. Right now, that communication simply isn't happening, and that's not acceptable. So I urge you to work towards creating a better and more direct way for parents and community members to communicate with the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to speak this evening?
Good evening, Ryan Dumont, 89 Hitching Post Drive. When I came tonight, I wasn't expecting to comment on the solar project, but I'll just make a couple of comments. If the state or the Fed revisits the program, it's something you may want to reconsider. I'm a huge proponent of solar. I have nothing to do with that company. I own solar myself. If you're running the numbers, it'll always work out better if you own solar versus PPA or the lease, but sounded like the town would have to come up with $6.5 million right away, purchase the equipment by June, probably not feasible, but something you may want to consider if you do the PPA in the future. You'd probably get some backlash on how it would look, but I think that's a conventional way of thinking, and just the aspect of the environmental part of it. You know, we should be thinking out of the box. We're way behind on the West Coast, and we should be looking at other solar projects like this. I believe it was Miss Lisa, or from this side, where the one question about the snow, if it slides off the panels, and I don't know if your question was addressed sufficiently, but the snow does slide off panels, so that is something you want to consider for liability. Also, maybe an advantage of the PPA versus if you own the panels, and more likely the liability portion of it as well. But the snow, from my experience, if you have significant snowfall after the panels start heating up, it's like an avalanche. It will come down. So if that snow is coming into the parking lot or onto a car, who's going to be responsible for that? So that is a good point if you decide to take this up at a later point. That's it. I actually came here to listen about the elementary school, so I just want to make those couple points. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak this evening?
Hi, everyone. Winded. Seth Corn, 8 Yorktown Road. Just getting back from Scouts for my son, so apologize I wasn't here, but I was listening. And I just have to say this is so exciting to see renderings, and I appreciate your time and your diligence. Really looking forward to the work to come.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak this evening? All right, hearing none, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
To adjourn.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Mrs. Clark, Mr. Bashevsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Ahoy.
All right.
R. Yar.
Oh, you're so.
Steve has it in a month.
Hi, Michelle.